Tonight on 8.5 Bits, something. We do a thing with a web, we solve a web, we unravel a web, and we spin a web. Click.
Yeah. We'll insert James click in post.
Welcome, friends of all design, to episode 298 of 8.5 Bit. I'm your host, Paul, and joining me tonight is my good friend, Sam.
Hi.
And tonight's games intro were, of course, The Outer Wilds, Echo of the Eye, Deathloop, and, of course, Webbed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've experienced some webbed.
So much things that we haven't spoken about. And tonight's episode will be special. Well, not special. It'll just be maybe the last one for a while, or maybe not. We'll find out. I'm about to go in for relatively serious surgery. And part of that might mean I have difficulty doing this, or it might mean I have nothing to do except this.
Yeah, so either no episodes or far too many episodes.
Yeah. Or Paul just starts doing solo episodes, like 6 a week. It's like, well, I've did nothing but playing games for the last month, so here we go.
It's the solo Spaghetti Boy nightly update.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have our Metroid Dread. I'm gonna play through Disco Elysium again. Gonna do so many fun things.
A lot.
And next week or this weekend comes out the new Nintendo Switch.
Yeah,
which
I forgot about.
Yeah,
and was pleasantly surprised to remember that it was in fact this week. Amazon needs to charge me for it.
I had absolutely no intention of getting it, and then I looked at it and I thought, maybe I do want it. I don't know what's changed in my... I think it's just a fear of surgery and wanting to make myself feel good.
Just want something nice to balance it out.
But then I'm like, look at the transfer process. I'm like, that's going to be annoying to do in hospital.
I don't want to do that at home, so yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll be fun, maybe. I think I'll just stick with my Switch. Oh, that's something I didn't...
If only the Playdate shipped.
Yeah. I'm just going to make another game on my long list of games I've played, most of which I've completed, but not this one. Actually, I'm going to start with it as a note, because it's a real short thing. Did you know, but you do because I put this on the Discord, join our Discord at discord.8.5bit.com if you want. Did you know that Ori and the Will of the Wisps runs at 60 on the Switch?
It does, which I'm shocked at.
Yeah, I never thought about buying it because even when it launched, it struggled on the PC at a high end and on Xbox. They've since improved it, and it runs 120 on the Xbox. And they've done some great work. And part of them doing that great work was working out special ways to make it run very well, including getting it to 60 on the Switch.
I would love to know what they've done to make that happen, but I also know I probably wouldn't understand.
No, you will.
Specifically.
What? Because just a very, very quickly in very layman's term, because one, I'm not smart enough anyway. Dynamic resolution.
Okay.
But not like the game. Elements.
Oh, so because it's all layered.
It's all layered and areas that aren't in the area of focus of the eye and everything. Yeah. So when you stop and look at the Switch, if you look at each individual element, they're all scaled at different levels, but because it's all working together...
They've put a 3D level of detail into a 2D game.
Well, it is a 3D game. It just looks 2D. But
effectively.
Doing this zoned resolution and everything, this is... Smart. And when you play it, the only time I've really noticed it is in the cutscenes because you're just looking at the visual fidelity then. In game, it's
awesome.
Barely notice at all. And it runs a solid 60 the whole time. So
which is what Ori really should be doing.
Yeah, and they made it a priority with the port. I just didn't even think it was possible. And then I saw it when it was on sale, because it was on sale, and I'm like, let's just type into Google, how is the Ori Switch port? And it's solid 60. What? Must look like trash. No, still looks good.
Does that... I wonder if that service exists or if someone should make it. Because, there's is there any deal and how long to be? Is port good?
That's normally Reddit.
Good
but yes, is port, yeah. And
someone should make that.
Digital Foundry does their comparisons if the game's big enough to do it. But they also don't have it as a table or something. What are the differences between the ports? And I know it's probably just going to cause a lot of fanboys to get... look, the resolution's technically high here, and it's that's not technically right. That's triple buffered, so it's a. I want to know.
I avoid those things.
Yeah, I just want a couple of comparative screenshots and know what the standard frame rate consistency and even what the stability is. There we go. Let's do it. Is the port good enough.com. Okay. So, let's just get straight into some games. Okay, let's start with the Outer Wilds, because we're probably not going to talk very long about this.
No, because we have
can't.
to spoil everything if we did.
Yes, so this is the review I've so far written, which is... so this is the DLC for Outer Wilds, both Sam and my game of the year of 2019, and both of one of our top games of all time.
Yeah.
So they released DLC, Echoes of the Eye, and there's a satellite. Like it starts very easily. This sort of says, hey, there's a new thing in the museum. And when you go to the new museum, it literally has a sign that says new exhibit. Like, thank you. This is easy to know where to start. And there's a satellite, and 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Because we can't tell you anything without... Well, we'll kind of talk around it, I think, just to give you some ideas and impressions. Because I'm actually not universally praising of it. But the criticisms I have are so minor compared to the highs of this experience that, as I say, 10 out of 10. So they've added something to the game. And all of the materials advertising it don't show you anything except the satellite existing.
I mean, even if you were go so far as to watch the trailer, I would state that a lot of those things in the trailer are they're directing you away from what they've done.
Yeah, they're not. It's like the whole thing about Outer Wilds. If you are not super aware, and I don't know how you can listen to us or not, it is about discovery. It is about finding new spaces, discovering the rules within them and how they relate to each other. And so every single thing that gets revealed relates to everything else and is important and is often jaw-dropping. And yeah, I can't say too much about it. So I'll just say my general problems with it. This DLC is mostly contained within a new space, which means it's a significant size, what we're saying, for about 10 hours.
Yeah, about 10 hours.
Which means every time you restart your loop, you just go back to the same place.
Yeah.
Now that place is it is the most complex part, the most complex area, most interconnected, the largest sort of thing in the entire game. I don't think that's even
There's
a
as much
question,
going on in the new location as there is in the rest of the solar system, I would say.
Probably.
It's just all tightened down.
It's just still in one spot. So you do end up doing that run very, very quickly.
You get really good at it, though.
Yeah. You get, like, man, I never started using the eject button so much. Just like, because there's an eject button in the cockpit, you hit it at and the front of the ship falls off, basically, and launches you out. It's like, I'm not getting back in here. Off I go. I saved myself 2 seconds by doing this. Yeah, so that was a little tiresome. And they've added spooky elements. There is now an element of horror to a degree in the game.
And a lot of the discourse I saw around people starting to play is they didn't even give us a warning for the anglerfish, but they've given us a warning for whatever the hell this is.
Yeah.
And an option to tone it down.
Yes, there is an option to turn it down. Something that I eventually did, not because of the spookiness, but because turning it down actually makes it slightly easier.
Yeah, it is an option that doesn't... It's called less frights. But I think what it is easier. It's not less frights.
Yeah.
If you're one of the types of people like me who get scared at some things.
Yes, if you're susceptible, it would probably still be
it's
spooky.
It's still quite spooky.
Which is kind of like why eventually, because it's something that makes you sort of... it's something that sort of makes you repeat a bit of content. So I just like, if I turn it down, I have to repeat it less. Great. But yeah, overall, I in 1 year, Sam and I are going to talk about this extremely explicitly because holy the fuck. It was great actually because Sam finished it before I started.
Yeah.
So I could just liberally...
I smashed it out day of release.
Yeah. Everything I found, I could just immediately message Sam with, holy shit!
Which I think is the best way to do it.
Yeah, it was actually very satisfying. And it gave you someone to talk to about it. And you could just giggle as I like half understood something and was so close to a solution. And
There's a few moments I was very careful in how I responded. I'm like, I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah, because it is something you don't typically want to spoil because everything is in there. And if you don't fully understand why something's working, you probably haven't found the explanation for it yet.
Yeah.
That's how the game goes. So yeah, if you have not played Outer Wilds, definitely you should have. What's wrong with you? And if you have, it's definitely worth going back. And in fact, that's kind of, it maybe is not it's maybe not great content for new players.
It's not, because it's just there. So if they decide to follow that trail first,
They'll get stuck in 10 hours of stuff that, whilst it does relate to the main plot, it is not like part of the main game.
yeah, it'll be 10 hours of extra things that won't help them with the rest of the game.
It'll probably be confusing. But it is kind of... You do have to do a couple of things that are just slightly out of the way. So if you haven't deliberately gone looking for it, you probably won't encounter it until you deliberately go for it. But yeah, amazing game. Now even better.
And I will say my biggest two concerns when I knew they were doing DLC is being able to repeat the wonder and amazement of the main game.
It definitely did
and
that.
tying it into the main game.
Yeah.
And I think they achieved both of those beautifully.
Well, one of the things I was on the Outer Wilds subreddit, they were sort of pointing out, it seems that a lot of the ideas and the existence of this was in the game before the initial release, because they had plans for DLC.
There are notes of some of the things that are...
Yeah, so it was always integrated, but again, without saying anything, they have sort of upped their game with this new space. They've got sort of a level of production that isn't necessarily in the rest of the game. Well, the rest of the game is also beautiful and wonderful. There's just a complexity here at work.
It feels like something that was maybe cut for scope, and then when they made such a brilliant game to start with,
they scoped it up.
Spend time to scope it up.
It's
they took the cut material and scoped it back.
Made it even bigger.
To a larger one.
Yes. So yeah, Outer Wilds again. Okay, next up, completely different scale. A local game. A game called Webbed. Webbed. It's a game where you're a little spider. And it's side-scrolling. And it has an amazing sense of movement. It is wonderful. I played through the game in 2 sittings, I think. I would have done one because I had to leave. And it starts very simply. You are out with your boyfriend, which I assume means you're a girl spider, but it doesn't really say, I don't think.
Spiders,
so you could,
who knows how spiders work?
Maybe you're a non-binary spider, I don't know. Hey, look, this is how you swing on a web. You know, it's a grappling hook with an amazing sense of momentum. As soon as you latch onto something, it accelerates you towards it, so you're always building up speed. And here's how you spin web, and you can build web in the game, and that can let you build platforms and let you move things with physics. And this button shoots your laser eyes.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're a funny game. This is good. And it's one of those things. So the game, because it has a lot of physics stuff with the web, needs a way to break web. And I'm sure they mulled over this a few times. And I haven't spoken to them. I actually would like to. And I'm sure they just then came up with well, what if spiders just have laser eyes?
Yeah, because we know that some spiders do.
Some do, not normally jumping spiders, but also jumping spiders don't do webs. So the web's just as fictional as the lasers. Yeah, but it's so you can break webs. It's very good. So it's a relatively simple experience. I'm not sure how long it took me. I'm going to guess around 4 hours, maybe a little shorter. But your boyfriend gets stolen by a local bird, but because they've got sort of blue hat on, they're not being killed, they're being collected. Also, it's a very, very Australian game. There's real attention given to Australian fauna and flora, which is nice. And the sounds, you're just sort of in the bush. In fact, I really love the sound of this game. It's got sort of jaunty little music, some nice instrumentation, which they do the simplest thing for. They fade it out when you're not moving.
Oh, perfect.
So you stop and the game calms down and you just hear the sounds of the bush, and then you start moving and it ramps up. I'm like, that's so simple. That's the easiest mixing ever, and it's so effective. The other thing they do is when you step on the strings and every little foot plucks that little string just a little bit, like fingers just dancing on a guitar string or something. Yeah. The length of the string donates the tone of the web.
There's this little random ambience. Beautiful.
So if you were insane, you could build an instrument and play it by jumping on
I'm willing to bet someone will.
I'm sure they have. I've seen someone try, but they didn't quite do it that well. But I'm just like, this is just the kind of the way that the sound works and feels satisfying. And it's just like, this is really adding a lot. And then you move through the game. One area is very, very physics driven, where you're basically having to you're helping to build a robot ant to fight the bird, because that's what the ants do. So as I say, it does have a bit of the realm of fantasy in it. So you're having to move bits of machinery and reconnect them, and you're using webs to both join things and lift them up. And sometimes that can get a little monotonous because sometimes if it's heavy, you need a lot of webs. So you're just going web, web, web,
It's the
web,
Spider-Man
web,
problem.
web. Yeah, I've had to put 40 webs on this thing to lift it up properly. But I ended up getting good. Like at first, it's a complete mess, and eventually, like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this now. And then other areas are more based on movement, like up in the trees, and you just move so quickly. I got a bunch of collectibles, and they're mostly fun to get. Like there's little flies going around, and so you jump at them, try to grab them.
Can you trap them in your web?
You can shoot web at them and then you attach to them, so they're still flying around, and you're just slowly going while you eat them in midair. And I got quite light of the game before I realized the thing that you just said, which should seem obvious. Yeah. You can just spin a web, and they get caught in it.
Perfect.
And like, oh, this is so you start spinning webs all over the levels, and that also lets you know like where you've been and make areas easier to traverse because you put webs there. It's got the cutest stuff. It's just like you do a huge leap and you shoot at a leaf, and the leaves come loose when you and you pull it over, and then you're using a little hang glider that's a leaf, and it's all naturally done, and it controls wonderfully, and it is one of the best feeling movements like in a game. It's my biggest criticism is the game ended, and I would have loved to play more of it. And hopefully they end up doing some more stuff along this line because they really nailed it. Like there's a skateboarding section and all sorts of stuff.
See, the only bit of it I've seen is a lot of hats.
Oh yeah, and whenever you you get all the collectibles to find a secret, and you get a hat or different costumes,
spider and a tiny little hat,
and different. There's a few other little alterations you can get. It's just got a great sense of humor. It's really brisk, and everything works in it. And it's mostly a 2-man team. I think other people might have there's a composer as well, and they're probably these
same
things
as a
touch
one-man
people.
Game,
Yeah, well, it's the Riley Neville, I think, is the main guy. I don't know if it's main. They say there are two some with it now, but he did Stab, 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 which I played at a games night last year on the Switch, which is just your sort of these blobby birds with stabby beaks.
I do remember that game. Yeah.
And when I saw them, I go hey, I know Stab, Stab, Stab. I love it when I know someone's more obscure first game. Man, Stab, Stab, Stab's my jam. Also, great name, but webbed, really wonderful game. Absolutely delightful. I could not recommend it more if you want a good moving side-scrolling. And it's not a Metroidvania or anything. You have all the abilities to do everything you need from the beginning of the game. You just become better at it.
This is a Spidey platformer.
Yeah, and it's not hard, but it is very satisfying. Because if you do a jump and you mess up, it kills you or you fall off the screen, just takes you to the last platform. It doesn't want to punish you. It wants you to have a good time. And I did. Okay, let's do some chatting about things that have happened. Yeah. There was a Nintendo Direct.
There sure was.
Okay. Let us... Okay. Monster Hunter Rise expansion. I'm sure it'll be fine and good. I haven't played it. Although I saw it wasn't part of that. The PC screenshots got released. Well, actually some video as well. And for something that's a Switch game, it looks really good.
Yeah.
Maybe I like the art style more than World. I don't know.
It is a fantastic version of Monster Hunter, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because it took a lot of what improved World and a lot of what was good about the older versions and kind of mashed them together. And then gave you more pets.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I have a whole little troop following you in this one.
You get a dog that can climb cliffs forever.
And because it originated on the Switch, I bet it runs like a goddamn dream.
It probably does, yeah.
Okay, so here was the first big... Let's call it the first big what the fuck. Actually, I don't know if this is in order. Who cares?
It's not in order.
So, get ready for the expansion pass to Nintendo Online.
Yay. Why?
I still think we don't know how much it costs.
We've got no idea.
But for a more expensive version of a cheap but useless thing, you now can get Nintendo 64 games and Sega Genesis games.
Yeah.
The same Sega Genesis games you can get on the Sega collection for $15. But now you can pay a subscription to play those same games. This deal offers megabytes of data to download.
It's odd to see what is effectively DLC for a online subscription service.
Yeah. They are releasing wireless controllers for
Which-
both N64 and Genesis.
Which do look kind of fantastic.
I am
I
interested
like
in
the idea of
yeah.
a wireless Nintendo 64 controller.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Australian details or if they'll even make them available in Australia, but at least price-wise to existing like third-party Bluetooth N64 controllers, they're actually cheaper and they'll hopefully be better build than most of those. So that's potentially interesting. Not that I necessarily use it on the Switch, because I'll probably play something on Dolphin that's actually got some enhancements to it.
I'll play some upscaled 4K Nintendo 64 games.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe I'll actually be able to play them if I have the right controller, as opposed to trying to map everything to something that isn't the Nintendo 64 controller.
That's what I find. Like sometimes I'm like, I go, I really want to play some Wii, but it's actually easier than setting it up to just emulate it. Oh, awesome. Okay, here we go. It's like, okay, how am I going to map these inputs? Oh my god,
There's a lot.
this game's pretty simple, right? Oh no, it has a shake here, and there's a pointing section. Oh, get the Wiimotes out. Just getting the Wiimotes out. In fact, let's just get the disc too. This is pointless. The Wii is the worst one I think to emulate. Getting that stuff set up in a way that's good.
No.
You're just kind of stuck with even simple ones. You think it'll be fine. Like, I'll just make a button that shakes it. Yeah, it's like, no, it's not quite the same. It doesn't. I'm sure if I sat down and was really dedicated, but it's also up there.
Yeah, you also just have a Wii.
I also just have a Wii with all those games on it. So. Which, I am starting to think, like, historically is quite an underrated console. I have a bunch of games on that.
There's a lot of good games on the Wii.
And no one seems to remember most of them. They're just like, it's Wii Sports, and then kind of forgotten. Maybe Zelda, and then people don't. The Wii U as well. Wii U had a bunch of nice games.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's a weird era, I think.
Okay, so back to yes, I have definitely not put this in order because I know the next thing was the last thing. So let's just do it anyway. Actually, it was the second last thing. They showed off Splatoon 3, which I'm interested in because I really like Splatoon. I did fall off playing multiplayer, and I assume the world is all better than me now, which is good because this had a really substantial looking single player mode that they were showing off. A bunch of new things for multiplayer as well, like big, like robot-y things and cool stuff. But otherwise, it looks
new
like
weapons
Splatoon.
and tactics. But
The single player it's Return of the Manimals, Rise of the Mammalians. Rise of the Mammalians or Return of the one of those two. Like so we got some furry squids. I hope they do like a flocked amiibo for them. That'll be
so good.
It's. I mean, you can't say like, now they're doing like this post-apocalypse because it's always been a post-apocalypse. They're just exploring the world now. Because as much as I actually did enjoy the single player of those games, they were just like challenge levels, like in space, and there was no story around it really. Like there was a story, but it wasn't a story,
but not a actual story.
Yeah. It was like here are a bunch of video game levels, you navigate it and reach the end. This looks like it might actually have a narrative and a bit more exploring this wild world of dead humans.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, I think.
I like when humans are dead. Bayonetta 3 got its first showing. She has a new haircut.
Yeah, I find it amazing that they've somehow managed to make Bayonetta more flamboyant. I didn't think it was possible, but they've done it. And I love it.
It was kind of a mundane trailer. Like it was very sort of grey and toned down, except then the actual combat was like
I didn't know what it was until Bayonetta showed up.
Which was how they were playing
it. Was the point.
Yeah. They had like the hints that they're like it's platinum, and I was like, okay, what's it going to be?
I was like, okay, it's platinum, and then I saw
is it Astral Chain 2
teddy bear, and that made me think it was Astral Chain 2.
Imagine if they did 2 Astral Chains before releasing.
And I remember that the cop teddy bear was kind of just a
generic trope. Yeah. Yes, it looks like she's got new hair, and from what it seems, I don't know if it's confirmed, a different voice actor, which, according as the theories go, there may be a very good reason for that. Not a problem with the actress, more of a story reason.
Oh yes, okay, I have heard about that.
Yeah,
I didn't hear about the voice actor part.
About a week or two before the trailer dropped, someone was like, "I can't imagine Bayonetta without the actress," and she replied to the tweet saying, "You might have to."
Oh, well,
but also, if she was like free to sort of say that, I imagine because she was supposed to say that. So who knows? Are we going to be looking at a Raiden style MGS2 situation?
I don't know.
That haircut has some implications. But yeah, there's not much to say. Just go watch it because it's wild. It's got some Bayonetta kaiju stuff going on.
It does look pretty good.
Yeah, and I assume it's going to be in a solid 60 being. That's why it's kind of like at your stills and looking at the backgrounds. Bayonetta doesn't always look great in that because it is made for quite weak hardware. They focus on what matters, which is crazy combat. So yeah, looking forward to that. There was a quick game by who's the director of Nier? Not Yotto.
Can't help you.
It's anyway. Everyone knows that guy. Card game, voice of the cards. The Isle Dragon Roars. It's so weird. This is put in a demo. I went and downloaded the demo. And you're like, okay, so it's sort of like it's kind of like a standard RPG.
Is this one where every single like tile in the land is a card?
Yeah. Everything's a card. You're like, okay, that's good. Is this going to be like making decks and there's a random element to it? Here's the weird thing. It's just a standard RPG. It's just things are cards.
So the visual style is cards.
Yeah, the cards seem almost entirely useless.
Strange. That's very strange.
And as someone that hates the abstraction of cards but has come to appreciate the gameplay implication of them, the most infuriating, confusing thing. It's like, this may as well just be like RPG Maker.
Make it an RPG.
Yeah, it's like your tiles are cards. Okay, I get it. And all your character portraits are cards. Okay. Other than that, it's just an RPG. A pretty standard one from what I played. So that fell off a little bit for me. Disco Elysium, the final cut, is coming out early October, which I'm looking forward to. I'm going to skip the big one until the end, because why not? Okay, the big one for me, actually. Reveal of the new Kirby game.
Yes.
Kirby, The Forgotten Land.
I love the look of this.
It is Kirby going full 3D. Which it hasn't really done before. It's gone sort of like isometric-y before, but it hasn't. I don't recall it ever going full 3D.
It's going full Kirby Odyssey.
Yep, it looks to be the Mario Odyssey engine. I can't confirm.
I'm semi-convinced it is purely from the gameplay as well.
It is utterly gorgeous. It is nice to see Kirby in a different style, so hopefully it'll give us a few more gameplay options. And it's out early next year, isn't it?
Yeah, February, I think.
Something like that. It looks great. So if you're interested in Kirby.
And the thing is, like, the argument with Kirby is you always know what you're in for with a Kirby game.
Yeah.
You know it's going to be fun.
Yeah. And admittedly, a few of them really meld together in my mind, but there's also just a bunch of standouts. It's like, I think maybe Rainbow Curse. Is Rainbow Curse the DS one, or is that the second one?
Sure.
Anyway, the original DS one where you drawing the rainbow, and he's more of like a ball that rolls around. Like, at its heart, it's still a basic Kirby game, but just has that one twist, and it's great. Actually, we'll get onto series with just do a one twist every entry later this episode. Okay, things that are mostly forgettable, but who knows? Maybe Sam has some strong feelings. Chocobo GP.
I think this is going to be fucking fantastic.
Do you?
I do. I legitimately think that this is going to replace Mario Kart in my life.
Okay. How much Mario Kart is in your life currently?
Quite a bit, actually. I play quite a bit with the people I've met online.
And
many of them are very excited for this too.
Mario Kart 8 is still my go-to racer.
I think this could be a strong contender.
Okay,
because it looks like it plays similar, but has some cool new stuff.
What cool new stuff do you know about other than
every racer has a special ability, which is kind of cool. It makes it a little different.
Could be, yeah.
A little more like double dashy almost. It's nice.
Double dash always I didn't understand the point of double dash ever. It's like, especially when it was like play it co-op. I'm like, why? Why do I want just one person sitting in the back of my cart throwing out powers, which they don't get unlimited of? I still have to pick them up.
Yeah.
So it seems like the most boring thing. And some people swear by playing it 2-player.
Look, I never liked double dash that much, but
I still liked the game. I didn't understand the 2-player aspect of it.
I think it was built for those people who have a little sibling that wants to help.
Yeah. But what if they fuck up my banana?
I also like the idea in this of the leveling up pickups.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
So if you get a fire pickup but you keep it, and then you get another one, it upgrades to Faraga, and then whatever the next Final Fantasy spell. So you upgrade the spells by picking up items. I think that could make it a little bit more strategic.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm sure I've seen a similar thing, and it was like pretty good. Maybe in Blur or something. Who can remember? Man, Blur was a good game. Bring back Blur and Nosgoth. Okay, so this is why we have Sam, because sometimes
I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't, like, I looked at it and I was just like, this does not seem like a solid racer.
I think also there's the point where, like, Mario Kart 8 has been out for so long and has had so little done with it that I just want something new as a racer.
It's crazy that it still sells like hotcakes. Yeah. It is so popular, and you're like, this is a Wii U game.
I have to imagine, like, the difficulty level of just adding more tracks is very low.
Yeah.
It's just not a priority.
No, and I honestly don't see them doing Mario Kart 9 anytime soon.
Maybe it's why they're wrapping up their Smash DLC.
Yeah.
They'll start just pumping out Mario Kart now. We'll get Sakurai giving us kart tracks.
What would a new Mario Kart be, though? It's like that's why
the argument I always have. It's like there's no reason for them to make another Mario Kart game.
Yeah,
unless they do something different with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess they did make a new Mario Kart. They made the AR one, which was just terrible.
Yeah. So it's in an odd space right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm sure they could make one gimmick and make Paul super excited. It's a side-scrolling Mario Kart. We've gone back to mode 7. Yeah. Okay. It's Sam just mentioned it then. The final Smash Brothers fighter will be revealed on October 5th, which probably will release this like tomorrow, which means it'll probably be the same day this releases.
And they've said it's a full 40-minute thing, so it's a whole presentation in one hit. It's not just
announcement. With all the Sakurai stuff afterwards. That's the best stuff. And when he awkwardly plays both characters to show off the moveset. Yeah, it's great. They're like, can't you get a single person to come and help? It's like, no, here I am just at home with my 2 televisions and... Okay, thanks, man.
The other thing is that they tweeted out telling everyone to let their imaginations run wild, which I feel like people do anyway.
Of course we do. Yeah. We've had our pitches before, but I really... that's all. I just want something wild. I really don't care.
I want something completely left field.
Yeah.
Just a whole new mechanic for the game.
I mean, I know what I want now, but that'll have to wait till the end of this segment. There's also going to be Animal Crossing Direct in October. It looks like they're bringing that cafe that everyone wants into it.
It looks like
a bunch of other stuff
is on the way.
It is weird how long it's been since they've had a DLC drop in that thing.
It is also very weird that they announced that there's going to be an announcement.
Yes. Yeah.
For both this and Smash.
Same with the Smash thing. It's like, oh, yeah, I know you're all tuned in here and watching us, but feel free to watch us later.
We've reached a point where they know that everyone just wants some info. So they've had to say something.
So, Dying Light is coming to Switch. So they're releasing the first one, and then they're releasing the second one as a streaming game. And I got to do a streaming game in Australia for the first time. Because I tried it once in Japan with RE, whichever RE that was. But... yeah, in Australia, you could do The Forgotten City. There's a demo out. So you can go and test the streaming service. And it was great. Yeah. It ran really, really well. And especially in a game like The Forgotten City, it was fine. Dying Light, I mean, it's mostly melee. So maybe.
Might be alright.
Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, that's a lot more of an action game. Forgotten City is a walk around and talk to people game. And because I've already completed that game, I just thought, can I speedrun this game in the demo time? And oh boy, I think I've still got... I might be able to do like the complete game. Yeah, I did the first ending, which is very quick to do. But it's like, could I do like the big ending by the time this demo expires? Maybe. Castlevania Advance Collections comes to Switch. It's out now. It's 4 Castlevania games. Yeah. 4 or 5.
All the different language versions of each.
Yeah. It's pretty complete.
I don't know if there's actually any differences.
Yeah. ActRaiser Renaissance that came out. I've never played the ActRaiser games or game. I don't even know if it's a series.
Heard a lot of. I think it's just game, and I've heard a lot of people say that they really liked that it's been remade because it was a game that they loved. But I've never heard of it.
I've heard about it talked about in cult circles before. So I think it
looks like someone's mashed 2 games together.
Yeah, well, because it's got sort of like town building as well as like a action platformer.
It's like an overworld strategy town builder.
Yeah, like some of the Monster World games had some of that stuff as well. which surprised me as well because I never played them, and then I started. I'm like, well, this stuff's way more interesting than I figured it was. Also, Deltarune Chapter 2 was announced since our last episode, and they also then announced it for Switch and released it for Switch. So you can get the first 2 chapters of Deltarune, which is the follow-up to Undertale, for free. But there's going to be way more chapters. So they're going to release Chapter 3, 4, 5 together, and then it's going to become paid.
It sure is an odd way of doing things, but...
Well, from the sound, Toby started the project still as a solo dev.
Yeah.
And then during Chapter 2, he's put together a team. And now they've laid all the groundwork and the team's together. So now they're just like...
just do it all in one hit.
Now they're like, okay, now we know what we're doing and we've got it all sorted. So now we're just going to pump through the game.
Finish the game.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, so the story I skipped, and the thing that it would be like, hey, this could be the final Smash character. What if the final Smash character was Chris Pratt?
Oh, hell yeah. Just Chris Pratt.
Just Chris Pratt, yeah. Yeah, not as...
Beautiful.
So they announced the cast for the Super Mario film, which began with Chris Pratt. He's so cool, they told us.
It started so low.
It is one of the biggest confusing moments of my life. There is a person that already plays Mario, and I actually buy the argument that Charles Marionette's oh, yahoo, yeah, let's go.
It's not the same as a full voice actor.
Yeah, if it's going to be... And he's going to be talking a lot, we were told. Mario will be talking a lot. So maybe that tone isn't quite right for a feature length. But the guy that you cast as the generic Lego guy whose role is that he is so generic and boring that's the voice...
Just any of the Marvel Chris's.
Yeah. I mean, I think Hemsworth might have... he could be a bit...
Just an Aussie Mario.
But here's the question. Does he put on an accent, becoming borderline offensive? Or does he just play it completely like, I'm Chris Pratt, and hey, isn't this weird?
Most of my experience with Chris Pratt has been Parks and Rec.
Yeah. And he's a classic character. Like, I don't dislike Chris.
As a person, I know that he's a fucking huge nerd. He loves games. He's talented at doing voice work.
Yeah.
He could do a good job. But he is also the last person I'd think of to play Mario.
Yes, he doesn't have Mario energy to him.
No.
That's the thing. It's like,
strange.
I don't think he's a terrible actor. I have quite enjoyed him in a bunch of stuff, but he is kind of the person you go to for... Okay, it's like because of Parks, we like go. He's the slovenly, except everything he's done since then has been hunky action star, and
he's become like the down to earth.
Yeah, so we've sort of got this like
man,
this seed in our mind that like he's a relatable guy, except he's not, and he's a little quippy. But not that quippy, and he's certainly Mario is not someone we described as a quippy guy.
Mario's not quippy.
But then what is Mario?
I don't know.
He's not Bob Hoskin.
It's the problem. We don't really...
Yeah, and that's the thing. If it was like real life, it's like Bob Hoskins did not do a Mario voice or anything. Actually, I don't even know if there was a Mario voice when he did that. Because I don't know if the 64 had come out yet. So, like, that was fine. He was just, hey, I'm from the Bronx. That's not a Bronx accent, and that is not what he sounded like.
Look at you to do it. Paul could be Mario.
Yeah. I'll just do some nondescript, like, it's me, Mario. So,
well, hey.
What nationality are you trying to do, Paul? I'll never say. No one could be offended at me. It's just intonation going up and down constantly. Okay, so that was confusing. The rest I was kind of fine with
the rest.
There's some fun in there. And some people act like all of these are sacrilege. It's like, look, let's face it, Mario, the story...
You know for a fact that most of these choices were to have a name on a poster.
Of course.
Which, the usual argument would be, it's so that people go, I know that dude, I'm going to go watch it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who Mario is.
Yeah.
Do you need name recognition? Probably not. But does it help? Probably.
Yeah, it takes it up to another level. People go, oh, this is a serious movie. They've got serious actors in it. Such as serious actress Anna Taylor-Joy, who will be playing Peach.
Yeah. She's the Queen's Gambit lady?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Serious wildcard Charlie Day.
I think that'll be fantastic.
As Luigi. Of course. He has the energy.
He definitely has Luigi energy.
He's not a big enough star to be Mario, but he could do Mario. Yeah. I would be 100% behind that. It just this kind of manic energy behind him. And I know he's like a little bit... They use him in mainstream a lot as like the wild, crazy guy. And maybe it's a little overdone, but he's good at it.
Yeah.
Jack Black is Bowser.
Yeah.
Will Bowser have a song? Maybe.
I hope so. I really hope so.
I'm fine with it.
I hope Jack Black puts all of his Tenacious D energy into playing Bowser.
Keegan-Michael Key is Toad.
Which is...
That's fine.
I love it.
What I want to do... No, what would be absolutely amazing is if he does the Toad voice.
That's what I'm hoping for. Because ever since they announced it, I think I'm never going to be able to unsee Toad with his face.
I'm trying to think of how to do... I'm trying to think of like Captain Toad quotes now, but I can't think of any. It's like... No, I can't do it. I can't go that high.
All I can think of is that, hello!
Fuck.
Do
it.
I'm on board.
Just be Toad. So good. And Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong. Leading to that this will have some, origins into it. As Jumpman.
Maybe it'll just be a generic story where Donkey Kong kidnaps Peach.
Actually, there was Fred. What's his last name? Armiston is Cranky Kong.
Yes. Yeah.
I think there's like a couple other people.
They pointed out a few others because they named. I can't remember who it was, but
the weird wizard guy.
Someone's Spike.
Oh,
and then people were like, "Who's Spike?" And it's like he's the dude who throws spikes at you.
Yeah.
That's why his name is.
I think these days he's Bowser
Jr.
Kid.
I think.
Yeah.
Whoever's playing Bowser Jr.
I like how there's Bowser Jr. and then there's all those kids,
the Koopa kids
as well. So yeah, I forget some of those other people, but yeah, look, it's fine. I'm like, whatever.
And then of course at the very end they're like, and Charles Martinet will have cameos. It's like, will he have cameos as Mario?
Which would be funny.
Well, they just get Chris Pratt to do all the voice work and then just Charles Martinet to do all the sound.
Yahoo!
Just to put all of those jump noises in.
That would
and
be
then
good.
just have no more talking.
Yahoo! Hello, I'm Mario. Yeah. So, and that's, Mario is not a secret universe that has to be preserved or anything.
No.
What I'd like them to channel the energy of the Mario and Luigi games. That still in universe but meta and just like lighthearted and look, we all know.
And
that's fine.
It's the Despicable Me studio doing it.
Yeah.
And they make perfectly good animated movies.
Yeah, people roll their eyes because the Minions are...
but they were perfectly acceptable movies.
Yeah. Yes, for what they're trying to do, they are doing that thing exactly. You may not like that thing, but they're hitting their marks. It's not like I watch and go like, this is incompetent. I just watch and go like, this is deliberately annoying. Anyway, so that's fun. I think that's most from that. There was also, a week before that, a Sony showcase, which began with a Knights of the Old Republic remake, which showed absolutely nothing, because I bet there's not much to show yet, although it has been going for a few years, as far as we're aware. This is a full remake. It's not a remaster or upscale. In fact, it's being done by Aspyr, who previously had done mobile ports and everything of the original KOTOR, including the not out yet, but the Switch version of those ports is coming out in December,
which is very much the remake's not coming to Switch, guys.
Let's just remind you.
One.
But also, I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we see this remake, the Switch successor is out and maybe it will
probably
be on it. So it's from the ground up. We do not know what that's going to mean. We haven't seen anything. We just saw the dude. What's the dude's name? I'm not a Star Wars man.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah. The main character, bad dude.
Is it
bad
Riven?
dude.
Raven?
Yeah, Riven or something. Yeah. Anyway, that's coming. And we kind of already knew it was coming, but it hadn't been officially announced.
Now we know.
So people went crazy, and it's a 1-year console exclusive. So it's coming to PC as well, so all the Xbox boys have to wait an extra year. But it's coming eventually. So, yeah. They also showed off a game, Project Eve, which was just Bayonetta, a little bit more sci-fi.
Yeah, I like the look of it.
Yeah, it looked like it's a Korean studio, I think, and they hadn't made anything else, so I don't know. But it looked interesting. Showed off some more Forspoken, which looks pretty cool. I'm interested to see that.
I'm very interested.
It's also coming to PC if you don't have a PS5. In fact, almost everything is.
I like the premise of it, and I like how it looks.
Yeah, it's the lady gets sucked into a Final Fantasy world and becomes a crazy parkour mage. Yeah. What's not to like?
It's right up my alley.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to be a parkour mage? Alan Wake Remastered, which we also knew was going to happen, got shown, or announced, and that's coming out this year, I think even in October, so it's like this month.
Soon.
Yeah, coming out to PC and PS5. They were showing off some comparisons of the original, and I was like, yep, that original still looks fine.
It wasn't ever really a bad-looking game.
No, it was always a pretty good-looking game. And I look at it and go like, I guess those textures are slightly better.
A lot of it is dark anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure maybe there's some good quality of life stuff in there as well. Can't speak to that. Here's the weird one. They showed off Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, we've been waiting for that game for a long time.
Got delayed, which is weird for a game that's a decade old.
How do you delay a game that's been out for a decade?
Also, am I having crazy bills here? But when they first showed games for the PS5, they started with Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yes.
It was the first thing they showed, which confused everyone. It's like, why are we watching a game that's already out for your initial game reveal of the PS5? And it was supposed to ship with consoles.
Yeah, it was. It was supposed to be a console release upgrade. And yet,
here we are.
they're too busy swimming in their pools of money
Yeah,
to give a shit.
We have too many resources to do the thing we said, which was port an existing game that
I
doesn't look any better than the current
see a
PC
small
version.
amount of discourse that I laughed at. I was like, well, maybe they've had to delay it because they've put all of their people on Grand Theft Auto 6. And I just looked at that and went, sure. You can believe that if you wish.
I'm assuming
have,
the majority of the studio is, but also that's not that team.
No.
Like, they're not doing like new art or anything. Like, there's no new gameplay program. There's no new content to any of this.
It's the same game.
Yeah. It's, as I say, it looks like the current PC version. Like, but it loads really fast. About the same speed as it does PC with an SSD. Like, okay. I mean, I'm sure, like, obviously there is work under the hood to make things good in it, but this isn't a remake or even a remaster or anything. It's
just a port, effectively.
Yeah, it's just a port.
It seems very strange.
But taking a long time to come here. So that's like March next year or something. Yeah. Sure, cool. Ghostwire Tokyo. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodhunt, which I'm going to be really interested to see if it does any business.
Yeah.
Because it seems that Battle Royale shippers... Well, it's not sailed, it's still very popular, but it seems that those that are into it have picked their camps already.
Yeah, they're set in whichever game they've landed in.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with many like lifestyle style genres and everything. Yes, there's so much time and to get in there, but the people are only going to pick one and maybe dabble in another one. It's not... You can't get the same people and same thing.
For a Battle Royale, it does quite a good job at being good.
I've heard some pretty impressive things about it.
And that there's enough differences from it to other Battle Royales to make it worth trying out if you like Battle Royales.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's like, it's not that it's a bad game or bad design and it doesn't have its unique hooks.
Entering a very saturated market.
Yeah, saturated market that requires high numbers as well. It's like you can't just get that little niche and survive. Like, you need to have the popularity. Anyway, and then the weird one that made me happy because I'm a big fanboy. There's a Radiohead thing coming out for PS5. Also Epic Store. Almost everything's on the PC as well. So Radiohead are re-releasing Kid A and Amnesiac in a sort of double pack. I think it's Kid Amnesiac. Yeah, it's just like. But yeah, they've made like a 3D digital showcase expedition, which is cool. Exhibition. I can say words. It's not an expedition; it's an exhibition. Here we go. So yeah, that's going to be available. And me as a big fanboy, it was like
cool idea.
Can I do it in VR? Hopefully, that'd
feels
be
like
fun.
the kind of thing it should be.
Yeah, I like a lot of Radiohead's cross-media stuff. Like their old documentary, Meeting People Is Easy, was like one of the better like rock documentaries. It's actually not that popular, partly because it's just like a big art piece.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's all just footage and fly on the wall, and there's no real narrative. It's just like
it's
basically
like
it's a bunch of music videos.
Yeah.
But I like it a lot. I'm a big fanboy, so whatever. Tchia, which is Mario Odyssey Polynesian theme.
Yeah, and it looks fantastic.
Looks great. I can't wait for that one. We already saw it before. I think is it this year? I think it might have been. Oh, can't remember the date on it. Yeah. 3D platform is good. This one looks fun, and it's got a. Yeah, I just like turn into a crab. Looks fun.
I do like that idea.
Yes. Okay. So now, okay, Uncharted coming to PC, whatever. Who gives a shit? Okay, the heavy hitters. We'll start with Gran Turismo 7 because I don't have any commentary.
It looks like a car game.
Yeah.
Which means it looks fantastic.
It looks amazing. Doesn't impress me like new Forza.
No.
Because that was like...
That was mind-blowing.
We kept getting confused. Like, oh, this is...
Forza was like, they're showing me a photograph.
Yeah, they're showing me the footage that they used to, like, as reference. Oh, no, now there's a car driving through it. I've been fooled again. But it looks high-end. And, you know, it's for the more serious carpet, so it's not for me anyway. So the things that they really want to show off aren't really going to impress someone like me. It's eventually coming out. I think there still was no date on it. So... Marvel's Wolverine was announced.
Yeah.
Insomniac's new game.
Yeah.
And they didn't show anything because there's probably not much to show yet.
Just a little cinematic.
It's being made by the Spider-Man Miles Morales team. It's not a small game like that was, though. It's a full-blown game. So expect that. Look, they're saying maybe 2023, but especially in current things, let's say 4 or 5. So there's going to be a Wolverine game. Cool. They really showed that they can do it in Spider-Man. So let's see if they can do something. I'm cool with Insomniac doing another superhero game. Unfortunately, they're also doing another superhero game. They're doing Spider-Man 2. Now, I don't think that'll be bad. I think that'll be probably pretty damn good. Spider-Man was good. It have Venom.
Can it please just be an Insomniac version of Spider-Man 2 for the PS2?
Yeah, I played it on Wii.
Oh, okay. That's probably the better way to play it.
It's pretty good. And yeah, I don't mean that. I am kind of disappointed that Insomniac is just like full-on Marvel licensed game now. I'm like, you guys are so talented and do stuff. And
you take all your talent and make IP, a new IP.
Yeah. Like, why can't one team do IP and the other one do other things? Because I don't love everything you make.
Because the mouse barged in and offered money.
Yeah, and like it'll be different. I'm sure it'll be good. It just means that those teams are tied up for another 5+ years. Yeah. But Spider-Man 2, they've said 2022. Let's see about that one. For radio audio listeners, I was doing a wank sign as they said 2022. But maybe, I mean, they should show off a bunch of stuff from game. Yeah. So maybe it's pretty far along. But it feels like, well, I guess. Because I was thinking Miles Morales, but that was the other team. They've been working on this since Spider-Man. And they already had a bunch of the tech, so maybe it's not so crazy. Yeah, maybe it is doable by 2022. Speaking of 2022, we finally got to see God of War Ragnarok, which up to this point, I don't think the Ragnarok had been confirmed. I think we all just... Yeah,
I think we all just assumed.
We all just assumed, like, this is the obvious name. That's what it's going to be
called.
I wonder if they had a different name and they eventually just went, well, everyone's already calling it this. They put it in all the databases. Let's just call it that.
It's easier for marketing.
It's so funny. The thing that like minorly disappointed me was that this is more God of War, which was an amazing game that I really really loved. And you know, part of you can see that, you know, like they get back in the boat, they're doing the boat thing again. And I'm like, oh yeah, that looks the same as doing that. And it was like, and this is why it's PS4 as well as PS5 because it's all the same tech and. Again, I'm like, okay, I'm over it. It looks good. I actually don't need to see this because it's just... all our favorites are back, and then they released some character art, including Fat Thor, which some people are angry about. Yeah. And those people are wrong, because Fat Thor is a great choice.
Everyone's used to big muscly men now for their mythological superheroes.
Yes, and they're muscly men in the weird sort of bodybuilding sense of muscly men.
Only muscle, not power.
Yes,
which is what this Thor is.
Yeah, but he's also a bit chunky because he's a hedonist. Yeah. I mean, Thor drank a sea.
It's perfectly legitimate.
Yeah. Anyway, then I saw people... The thing that I glossed over where I'm like, you're getting the boat, that's the same. They're like, lazy devs. They've used the same animation.
Oh, why...
Well, of course they fucking did. They already made getting in the boat.
They're going to remake a getting into the boat animation?
Who gives a flying... This is how all games are made.
There is a subset of gaming culture that expects every single game to be made from scratch. Scratch.
Remember the thing about game. This Far Cry game has the same map as another Far Cry game? Yeah. It's like... And it's dressed entirely different with entirely different gameplay. Who gives a shit if the base geometry is the same?
The best part is I'm convinced that the Venn diagram between that part of the gaming subculture and the part of the gaming subculture that plays Grand Theft Auto 5 is a circle.
Which it's actually weird because, well, not weird, but like
it's not a new game, so it's fine.
But Grand Theft Auto 5 and all of them, but 5 especially, it always just blew my mind that they made so much content.
Yeah.
And the story's not that long. And the multiplayer doesn't involve you with most of that content.
Mm.
It's like, why don't you just keep using that content? I mean, I'm sure they've got libraries and they're using that for stuff. It's like they're not remaking all the bloody bookshelves and everything for the new one. Or they might be.
Maybe they are.
Maybe they are. Maybe it's why it's going to take it up 20 years. But like, you just reuse the world. You've made such a detailed world with so many like just...
Everything in the world operates on reusing things that have already been done.
That's exactly like if you're a coder, yes, you know how to write code, but there's a large chunk of your code which is taken from GitHub.
GitHub Stack Overflow and existing code.
Yeah, exactly. You don't rewrite the. You don't like. You make a model for a generic object, and maybe you make it high poly, and then every project that needs one of. You make a fork once, and you remember to make it. You bought it from someone because it's a fork, and then it's like, well, do we need a fork in this project? Get it from the fork library. It's like, lazy Debs, they didn't remake a fork. Who gives a fuck? Crazy people. Anyway, so God of War Ragnarok, it looks good. It's more God of War, or I'm sure it'll be higher definition on the 5 and maybe a better frame rate. They'll probably give you the choice, which I do find weird about consoles now. They were supposed to be a standard, and now you have to make a choice. Standard. This is over. And they're just PCs. Anyway. Okay. I suppose we'll finish off the news, because why not? One thing that we haven't mentioned, it's not new news, but it is news. We kind of mentioned Forza before, and I don't have the date, so we may already be too late, but you like Forza Motorsport? Because it's about to disappear. A first-party Microsoft game is leaving Game Pass, and the ability to purchase it is disappearing. And that game it's either, I think it's 2016. So it's only 5 years old. And they have not released a new Forza Motorsport. That is probably coming after the next Horizon, because they used to leapfrog, but now they've just focused on the Horizon a little bit. So if you are into the more serious side of that, you need to go buy it. And they had some special deals that, like, if you bought DLC, they just give you the main game for free and stuff like that. And there's deals on it because it's car licensing. Yeah, they can't in perpetuity. I'm good at talking words. Keep selling that, and hopefully that gets sorted out, because that is like they can't sort out the stuff in the past. No, but like for future licensing, stuff. It is weird that they have a first party game that's disappearing from their first party service. Anyway, thought I'd just mention a bunch of Blizzard shit happened. They get sued by other people and stuff. I don't care anymore.
They're still making a lot of random changes to things.
Yeah, I think Diablo 2 sold fine though. So there
was a bunch of paintings that got changed in WoW.
Yeah, they got
that's what people do in WoW. They look at the paintings.
There was a employee rights thing, and they had to put a fund of $18 million. And people were like, oh wow, that really served them. It's like, it's $18 million for Activision. They don't give a fuck. That fell under the couch. Ocean. Who cares? Yeah. So that didn't stick it to anyone.
Like tax offset at that point.
Yeah, probably. They probably they somehow turn it into
give
profit.
You 20?
Yeah. It's like, this really works in our favor. There was a little bit of development in the Apple stuff. Now, I actually didn't read up super high on this, so if you care, go and look better details than I'm about to give you. So there was basically a ruling that said that they are going to allow third-party payment. It's still not like in the game or in the product itself, but they're allowed to direct you to third-party payment options.
Yeah, they can't force people to only go through Apple payment system.
Yes. Yeah. So they can put a link in there like, hey, you can go here and pay for it if you want. Where previously, like, services, that was still true. They just couldn't put a link in the product. So I think like Spotify and stuff were like that. Like, you couldn't subscribe on Apple. You had to load up a web browser to go do it. So that's allowed, but they also just said to Epic, Fortnite's blacklisted until this entire process is over, which will be like 5 years plus. So, oh well, Epic's doing fine, so they'll be fine. Who
They'll
knows?
survive.
Maybe it'll just encourage more kids not to buy Apple devices.
I did, because these things pop up on news feeds in places where I
Uh-huh.
don't usually read news from,
Yeah.
and it shows me comments below them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's always interesting
and
to
seeing
see those
some
sort of
comments
bases.
are odd. Seeing like other
What were the odd
thoughts of
comments?
well, there's ones that were like, well, this will really teach Epic because they can't have expected to build their empire off of Apple and then leave them. And then I'm just looking like, what world makes you think that that's how it went?
Yeah.
Huh?
I don't
What?
think their empire was built on Apple.
Yes, because Fortnite got successful on iPhones.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly didn't hurt. But certainly they had a decent player base there.
I'm like, there's people out there that just believe this. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And at the end of the day, it is two massive companies fighting, but the scale between those two companies is vast. So it is the same as me fighting Epic as Epic fighting Apple.
Yep.
So, that said, I think Epic's fine, so I don't really need to put my neck out for them either.
Yeah. The way I see it is that Epic have shot themselves in the foot in a way that won't affect them, and it's helped every other company that has to do with Apple.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It is like their whole trying to frame it as being altruistic, whilst most people saw it as just like you're just trying to frame this. I was like, has kind of worked out true because it didn't help them, but it helped everyone else.
Whether they're framing it like that or not, that's kind of how it's gone.
Yeah. We had some exciting firmware updates. One on PS5 now you can plug in an SSD that costs $2,000.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of an overstatement, but not quite. But yes, if you want to put in a decent sized SSD into your PS5, you are looking at least the price of a PS5. So if you think if you really need it or not at this point, it'll come down cheaper in the future. Other one was on the Switch. Here's a new firmware, and it you use Bluetooth audio now.
Yeah. And the most common response was, it could do that all along?
I mean, obviously it technically could,
well,
but it doesn't.
because it's Bluetooth. All the controllers are Bluetooth.
Yeah, it's got Bluetooth in it, and you've just finally
They've
allowed
just
it.
decided to switch it on.
But what is funny is that then I've had the response, yeah, but it's shit. And it is shit, but I don't think it's... And this is kind of, I think, why it wasn't turned on. Because people don't understand Bluetooth.
No, Bluetooth isn't that great of a system for audio.
Yeah, Bluetooth is shit. The Switch's implementation is fine. So one of the things you have in Bluetooth is that you got limited number of connections. So people were at first a little bit upset that if you have Bluetooth headphones turned on, you actually can't use as many controllers.
But why? Not why can't you? Why is that upsetting? If you're using headphones,
Why
are
would
you playing with other people?
Yeah, why would you need 4 people to play with you? You can still play with 2.
What world is happening here?
I was very confused at that one myself. I'm like, wait, because I think they thought that everyone would have Bluetooth
It's like,
headphones on.
I can hook my Switch up to a Bluetooth speaker.
Yes,
and we could all play
that
through
could be
a
doable.
speaker.
Here's the other thing. Bluetooth has shit latency.
It does.
It's quite hard to get around. Newer ones kind of get around. But yeah, it's great for audio, like listening to music and stuff like that. What it sucks at is stuff that requires time in video games.
I don't know how I have, but I have spent the last year somehow playing Overwatch with Bluetooth headphones.
I think that Overwatch is probably fine.
There is definitely like a 2-3 second latency on that audio.
Oh, it can be. I once thought on my phone, I'll play Thumper.
Oh, that's going to be difficult.
The calibration tools do not go that high.
No.
It's like, Jesus Christ, this is not playable. But that's just Bluetooth. So if you're playing a game that is not relying on split-chin audio, it's fine. I was playing Spiritfarer with it. It was great. So whatever. I was like, that game is weird to go back to now because they added all those new characters. I'm like, I should go get them. I'm like,
I don't want to.
What was I doing? I'm at the end of the game. Everyone's gone except me. My boat is huge.
It's like you got to start over.
Yeah,
you have to go through all the emotions again.
So many emotions. Oh God, some of those. Anyway, Spiritfarer is a good game. There was a very funny one. The CEO, at least one of the directors at Tripwire, thought it would be a smart thing to do to go onto Twitter and say, "Just thought I'd bring this up apropos of nothing, but that cool abortion law in Texas is sure awesome. And more people should say this and not be afraid.
And he lives not in Texas, correct?
Yes, he is not a resident of Texas. This is not an issue that was directly affecting him.
No. He just decided to
He decided, you go through
voice his opinion.
Managed to make it through not saying anything through Black Lives Matter or anything like that. But now it was time to finally speak up. So, Twitter backlash. And I still stand by. I think if it was just Twitter backlash, nothing would have happened. Because I don't think that stuff really does affect business in the end of the day.
No.
You look at all this Blizzard stuff and it's, hey, Diablo 2 seems to have solved fine. And that's one of the biggest scandals of the bloody year, if not few years. But what it did do is a bunch of their partners said, you know what? We're not involving ourselves with Tripwire. We're cancelling our contracts. So a day after that, he was gone. And in this case, good. Fuck you. And that's kind of the thing. It's like, at the end of the day, it's all financial. This is capitalism at work. This was you made yourself.
Yeah. Congratulations, you've just made yourself an enemy.
Yeah, it's like you got to do a thing that your business partners do not want to be associated with, and now you've lost business. So now you got to go, which is good because the guy was a real weirdo. When you finally get into it, it's like in Killing Floor, he did things like made them remove like nipple piercings. In Killing Floor.
That's very strange.
Came about very, very vicious killing of things, but they're zombies, so I guess it's fine.
You can't have nipple piercings.
He also put in a song from his Christian metal band.
I do like that.
I like people put it.
I like the idea of that.
You need to look at the lyrics. It is hilariously pathetic.
I just every now and then I'm reminded that like that
Those
genre
things
exists,
yeah,
and it just amuses me.
It's. I mean, like America basically supports Christian anything.
Yeah,
they just have their own version of it. It's like the Bollywood in America. Like they just have their own industries, just repeating their own stuff, but just with their different flavor. It's like, yep, there we go. Let's get I don't know, I'm trying to think of an egregious like example, but I mean, because I can't think of anything that just isn't just a thing that would definitely exist.
Yeah.
Like they'd have all their own Christian sports leagues. They've got definitely their own Christian channels and movie
Christian
studios and games. Yeah, I can't think of anything weird because I know it all exists.
Yeah.
So it's like... Anyway, that pretty much takes us to the end of it. The International cancelled its live events, so they stopped selling tickets and that's not shocking. Evo also stopped its live event that was coming up, because we're still in a pandemic, and it's weird. This week should have been PAX Australia, and said there's an online event.
PAX Australia online.
Okay, now let's get through some more of these other games. Shall we talk about Deathloop?
Yeah, let's.
So Deathloop is finally coming out. Bethesda. God damn it.
Almost correct.
I mean, it is.
It's Bethesda's published.
It's Bethesda's published, owned by Microsoft on PlayStation and PC, by Arcane. And so this is Arcane's new game, and it has a cool sort of like 60s mod aesthetic, but that's sort of selling it short. It's got like a bunch of that, a little bit of sort of exploitation in there.
Yeah, it's almost.
But yeah, it's also some bits sort of remind me of like Soviet propaganda, like sort of the surrealist side of it. Like, what was the Tomorrow Children? Like when you get like the big faces and stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of that sort of like surreal industrial mixed with cool 60s mod, and like the aesthetic's wild. Anyway, concept is there's an island. That island, there exists a time loop, and you are trying to break the loop to get out of it. Cole, you are a cool guy who swears. One of the first lines is like, "What the fuck is that?"
He does like to be sassy with no one else around.
Yeah, he's a sassy boy. His voice acting in this is great. So yes, you are trying to, and what you have to do, well, at least what you believe you have to do at the beginning of the game, is there are 7 visionaries on the island. They're sort of the big bosses in charge of the place, and your job is to try and kill them. And to do that, you need to go to 4 different areas of the island, and there are 4 periods of day. So you need to go to the right part of the island when a visionary is going to be there. You can sort of do a little bit of engineering to try and get visionaries to the right place at the right time, and you're trying to get to the one perfect day where you can kill all 7.
You're trying to figure out the puzzle of the loop.
Yes. Little bit Outer Wildsy in that sense, but very different. And every time you die, or you get at the end of the day, it resets and the day begins again. So it's got that repetitive Outer Wildsy thing. A few main differences. One, this is not a clockwork game. This is when you go to an area, it starts that next time of the day. And then when you leave that area, it progresses you to the next time of day. Yep. You can skip a time if you want, but generally, you can do something. So basically, you've got 4 choices of where you're going to go on the island. And when you go to different areas, they change depending on the time of the day and what you've previously done. And I have not played a lot. I guess my main takeaway of this is Arcane. This is Arcane's response to the criticisms of how people play Arcane games.
It 100% is that. In fact, I think they've stated as much.
Yeah. So one of the problems with an Arcane game is that they give you all of these tools to play with. And then everyone does like a stealth sniper hacker. And they sneak around and they try to do a no-kill run because there's normally an achievement done with it. So they don't touch any offensive abilities in the game. And everyone just slowly goes around and reads all the computer emails. And this kind of gets away from that because it resets. And there's no real penalty for just deciding to go guns blazing and trying stuff out.
You know what? This time I'm going to kill everyone.
Yeah.
Just because it makes it easier to read the emails.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know one's going to come get me if everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Why not? And it also means you can't take everything with you. So you've got to pick different builds if you want to try stuff. And also you start each day fresh, and we'll get into how that's a bit different in a second. But that means also that where you go, you just grab the equipment that's available for you there, that people are holding and such. So you get different builds, you play different play styles, and you need to keep going into areas so you can try things differently. And as you get more comfortable, you can have more elaborate runs and look, if I just do this one run, I just walk around this corner, I shoot that guy in the head, and I keep moving. I don't have to spend 5 minutes working out where everyone's path is. I've been here 6 times already. It's fine. It sort of stops people doing all that stuff. It also doesn't have a quick save and quick load. You die, you just go back and do it. So in many ways, they also counteract it by making the game not that hard. It's not a walk in the park, but it's not like you make one step and you're screwed and you've got to restart the game. They do expect you to be able to take down 7 bad guys in one run. And by then, you're going to be pretty bloody powerful anyway. But also, as you kill them, the AI gets harder and stuff like that. So there's a trade-off there. And then there's also the other side, which is you've got Julianne, I think. Julianne. And she is hunting you.
And she's one of the 7.
She's one of the 7, so you've got to kill her. And she is sassy, and you're constantly having a bit of back and forth. And again, great voice acting. And she'll invade you while you're doing other stuff, which stops you from, you're busy doing your sneaky, give me another computer email. And then she's in the level and she's going to hunt you. So, you got to be a bit more active. And she can also be played by a different player who can invade you, which I haven't done. Because I haven't, as I said, I haven't played that much.
It's quite fun.
Yeah.
But I do recommend waiting before you do it.
Oh, yeah. And I guess that's the other thing. Because you are constantly going through the same areas, and I'm sure you did this, Sam, but you weren't supposed to. You don't have to thoroughly comb the area the first time you go into it.
I know you're not supposed to, but I did.
I know you would. I kind of deliberately forced myself not to. Because it's
But it's nice that you don't have
to. You're going to come to this level a dozen plus times. You don't have to check every nook and cranny. You're going to have an excuse to go there.
Yeah.
And I like that from a game like Outer Wilds and all these things that require you getting intimately aware of areas. I like it from a game development point of view as well, because I don't feel like I'm wasting the cool shit people made. It's like, oh, no.
You're going to see all of it.
Yeah, I'm going to see all of it. I'm going to get it. It's not like sometimes like a God of War or something like that. I go like, wow. I remember James and I were playing Resident Evil 2, and we went down this alleyway, and I'm looking at this alleyway going like, there's a bunch of unique art in here. It's been lit. It's like, this is like...
Some people might never go there.
This is like a week or something, and all that's in the alleyway is like a health pack to pick up.
Yeah.
Like, this is... Like
Someone
this...
just walk past, never see it.
Yeah, there's so much work for nothing. But in Deathloop, you'd go there 20 times.
Yeah.
This is where I get that extra med pack that'll help me on my run this time. Anyway, I've spoken too much. How have you gone? You've played a lot more than me.
Yeah, I still feel like I've barely scratched the surface because of how I play these games. Like
Uh-huh.
you say, I'd like to comb the area. I definitely play stealth. I've leaned away from it a little bit with this because I had just wrapped up finishing Prey when I started playing.
Oh yes,
this,
you were playing that
and
recently.
Prey was a full stealth run for me. So I already had that kind of in my head as being done.
And you didn't even corrupt your body with alien powers, did you?
I did actually.
Oh, good,
Yeah,
good.
It made it so much easier to play the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Deathloop, I think it hit every mark I like in this kind of game, plus other games.
Mm.
And I wasn't quite sure how they were going to tackle some of the things in terms of like how the loop works or like how progression might work. And I think they've handled them in a way that is very nice. In the fact that it effectively, you're playing a roguelike where each run is that day. Like it's 4 missions.
Since you just played Prey, have you touched the Prey DLC?
I haven't. And
Which
I've heard
is-
that Prey Mooncrash is a fantastic roguelike.
and is an actual roguelike.
I will be going back to it.
Well, this certainly has
It's on
some
the
roguelike
list.
elements.
It's
That's
like-
an actual roguelike.
I finished Prey, I've moved on to Deathloop, and when I'm done with Deathloop,
You're gonna go back to Prey.
Mooncrash. But yeah, like I like that. At first I was like, okay, I kind of get it. And it had some relations to Tarkov, which is an online game, which actually does feel a little similar because a lot of it is, okay, I have a loadout, I'm going into a mission, and then I'm leaving a mission.
Uh-huh.
But if you die while you're in there, you lose all the stuff you took with you. So there's a lot of like, okay, what do I take with me? Is this a reconnaissance run? Do I take nothing and I'm just going in to find stuff? Or is this a kill run? I'm taking my best gun and going in to actually do the mission and kill the visionary. I like that. I like that eventually when you get through enough tutorialization, you find out that you can actually keep stuff from day to day.
Yes.
I was worried that wasn't going to be a thing. I'm like, surely they have to let me keep things from day to day at some point.
Especially when you're getting like powers and stuff.
Yeah, and like
you're
the weapons have like rarities and abilities and like all the perks you can put on everything. I'm like, there has to be a way to keep
So
these.
as you
And
make
there
your
is.
way, you get a resource residium.
Yeah, Residium.
Yeah,
And I
Residium,
think the
yeah.
way that they introduce everything from a tutorialization point of view is actually one of the best that they've done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, like...
It does take a long
Prey
time.
and Dishonored and all that, like, they throw you in and your tutorialization is playing the game and picking the abilities you want. That's it. Whereas this actually tutorializes the whole thing and slowly introduces... So you get through, like, several loops before you have all of the things to play the whole game out.
Yeah.
From a mechanics
Which is
standpoint.
also one of those things like where I'm like, even though you still did, if you
spend your first day meticulously going through everything, you've wasted time.
yes,
Yeah.
because you have to die a few times before you get the
lose
full
all the
gamut
stuff
of things
you've
you're going to
gotten.
do and everything.
Yeah.
Other than like learning a few things. Yeah, you need to let the game get you to its point.
I highly recommend playing it just pushing through quickly until you've unlocked playing both characters, like until you've unlocked the ability to go and invade instead.
Yeah.
And from that point, you can probably then take your time and do things a bit more.
What the other thing I thought actually, as far as these games go, it is the most like chunkable, digestible one.
Yeah.
Like you can go
Even
in,
from the way I play, it feels
Yeah.
much more digestible.
you can say, okay, I've got this knowledge, I've got this track that I'm following. I'm just gonna go do that, and that thing might be 20 minutes of content.
That's the other bit, that all the information is a lot more accessible than they have been in their previous games.
Yeah.
In the very Outer Wilds sense of like you have a log, you have a flowchart, and you can just go, okay, I have this information. I want to go and figure this one thing out.
Yeah.
Let me mark that. It tells you which time of day and where you need to go, and you just go do it.
Yep.
Like, it's very much more guided objectives.
Yeah.
But still very explorative.
And you don't have to, like, put the markers out if you don't want.
No.
So it can still be like, work it out. You go there.
And a lot of times the
like
marker is like, hey, go investigate this thing, and then when you get there, you have to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or how to get there, and
Yeah.
I think it's a very, very well built loop game.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I do love the clockwork thing. So I kind of want that, but I also kind of understand where they're going with it.
Yeah.
They don't want someone's run to be ruined because they got the timing wrong.
Yeah, it feels like
such a substantial
there's
thing.
So much that you'd have to do to execute that it would get annoying if you messed it up.
Yeah, if it was 4 giant Hitman levels in a row, and then you could just screw it up with just
near the
end. like a missed door or something, that would make people very angry. But yeah, it's pretty good. And the story, from what I've done so far, is cool. And it's immediately...
It's beautifully written.
Like, okay, so you start on the beach. You start on this beach. Well, actually, it starts a little bit before that, but we don't need to cover that. So your first gameplay, you're on a beach, and you run up. It's like, hey, you can see floating words in space, which is fun thing. The character is aware of them. It's like, hey, can anyone else see these words?
And that's what's used when you mark objectives too, which I love.
Yeah, it's a real cool style. Now, you go up, and there's a locked door, and it says you know the code already. So, if you are a fan of shock-style games, of immersive sins, you know the code. Did you put the code in, Sam?
No.
So,
I didn't.
If you know the code, you know the code. And you can put that code in. It's not the code. But it does recognize that you put the code in. So put the code in.
I have to go back and do
that. But like, so because it doesn't, because there's a famous code. If you put it, they don't want you to do it because you have to see the first story thing that's going to force you through. And that story thing has a little element to it, which even though it's like in the first 10 minutes, still not going to spoil it here, makes me go, oh, this isn't just a loop game. This is some other stuff going on. It's really interesting, really excited. And everyone's got a great attitude because basically everyone knows it's like
everyone is aware it's a loop.
So everyone's like a weird hedonistic psychopath where it's like we can have a fun party where we kill each other because we'll just wake up tomorrow.
I'm going to point out I haven't touched enough of it to know to understand what's going on, and I wouldn't spoil it if I did.
Yeah.
But a lot of the things going on feels a little bit like Paradise Killer. Like it feels like we're in the same world almost, and like this is just one of those islands.
Oh, that would be a good tie-in. I can see it. Maybe like early Paradise Killer,
because like the get-go is like, okay, we're in a time like we're reliving the one day over and over, and it's a big party.
Yeah,
like, that's what it is.
It's fine. There is no consequence because there is no tomorrow. Yeah, it runs with that. And, and whilst it has all this serious stuff and it can be a bit like extreme with that, it's also kind of lighthearted, probably the most lighthearted game. I'd say it was. It's fun.
And has one of the best melees in any game I've ever played. Because the dedicated kick button has far too much power.
Oh, you were talking about the kick. I was going to go like, I don't actually do the melee that much.
Not the machete.
I much prefer just kicking people off cliffs.
And I don't know. I don't know if you've watched. There's a little NoClip did a little interview with the head of director of the company. And they're obviously going to do a full documentary on Deathloop eventually, but they did a little interview where they were talking about probably how that kick came about.
It's probably just too early to talk about,
pretty much,
because you want to talk it in some detail.
They've only just put out a Prey one.
Yeah.
But yeah, they talked about how that kick came about, and it's quite an interesting.
It's like
what it's done is it's solved an actual engineering and networking problem that they had with the game. Yeah. And also stayed being really, really, really
So it's
fun.
a little bit like Webb's Laser Eyes.
Yeah.
It's like we need to solve a problem, so he gave you an awesome kick.
Pretty much. The short version is they did have Dishonored style attacking and blocking, but because you have another player invading you, which is another person, latency is a problem. Because you have to handle latency between NPCs and between two players. So like doing that with animations and all that doesn't work. But the kick works fine, because if there's latency in a kick, you don't really care.
Yeah.
You just feel like you missed the kick. So they left that in and removed all the like advanced melee combat.
And that's the thing. It's not... Whilst it's... In many ways, it's more of an action game than the other ones. It's also not about the fighting at all to a certain degree.
No,
it's about...
It's very much about discovering
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
And then, I guess, executing the final run of getting all the 7 visionaries.
Okay. So that was Deathloop. Available on PS5 and PC. At all major stores. Okay. Since last time I finished Psychonauts 2.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what I said last time. So it was good. It's got a good story.
You said you really enjoyed it, I believe.
Yeah. It's It's very good. It's very much a sequel to the original game. So whilst it's like cool and surprising, it's also like just a very good version of that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Get back in. Okay. The Artful Escape came out.
It did.
Annapurna now publishing, but Australian made. It's Beethoven plus Dinosaur is the company, headed by Johnny Galvatron.
Beethoven plus Dinosaur describes the game a bit too.
Yes, they have a certain aesthetic to it, and Johnny, whilst I should have realised this, nice guy. I met him like 5 or 6 years ago at a PAX, showing off this game in an early form, and I think it was 5. I think it was 2016. And very rock star, which for some reason I didn't look up until after the game came out. Of course, he had a band, and still, I think it's back together now, and it's called the Galvatrons as his last name, which I'm going to guess isn't his real last name, but it's his,
Could be.
I think it is now.
It'd be fantastic if it is.
And all their music, well, not all their music, but a lot of their music is about space lasers, and that's all right.
It all lines up.
Yeah, it all lines up. So the Artful Escape is about a musician whose uncle is a famous folk singer, sort of think along the lines of Bob Dylan, who's dead. And there's a big festival in the hometown celebrating the uncle, and you are going to be the uncle's... Everyone's got basically expectations that you're his like protege, and you're going to do your first gig. And the game starts with a wonderful prompt. It's like, push X to play a sad song about a miner's like lot in life or something. I'm like, that's pretty funny. But you don't like folk music. You like space lasers.
Yeah. And
wailing on an electric guitar. And soon you'll find yourself in an adventure in space, finding yourself and crafting your new Ziggy Stardust style persona. And that's basically it. Side scroller. And it is a walking simulator. You will not encounter anything that resembles difficult platforming. You'll mostly be pushing one direction. And you'll be mostly holding down X, I'm not sure what is on the keyboard and mouse, but X on the control pad, to wail on your guitar the whole time because
it's fun.
It makes a good wailing sound. Not like Whalers on the Moon. You like shredding. And then you'll get to encounters with, let's call them boss encounters. It may not be something you're against. It might just be a conversation. And all those are Simon.
Yeah.
Push
the buttons.
Push this button, then that button.
Push the right buttons.
And you're wailing on your guitar as you do it. And it is pretty good, and it lets you do your own timing, so you can sort of like make a cool thing.
Make your own thing.
But that's it. Now, am I excited or not about this game?
It's hard to tell.
I know, I like playing it close to the game is really fucking cool. It has a actually good story. Great voice acting, including the likes of Jason Schwartzman and Carl Weathers and Lena Headey and a few other people. It's Heady.
There's no L.
Yeah, I always put an L in there for some reason.
I'm the same.
It
feels like it should be there.
Yeah. And it is a visual feast. One of the things that shocked me at the end of the game was that... So it's about 4 hours long, I think. I think there were 5 artists. I'm like, that's just like the 2D... Like, yeah, this is the first of the many teams that made this game, including Johnny in that. Nope. That was it. And this is a game of like 4 hours of non-stop art.
Yeah, it's just art.
Yeah, and whilst there's reused assets and everything, it's like if you're making a field of creatures, you don't redraw every creature. It's like, but that creature was cool, and it's all like ragdoll animation, like but it's really well done. It's such a high fidelity, and it's using every single effect in Unreal. And just as you move through, the whole world's reactive to you, and it's supposed to be, you know, it is this wild, surrealist space lasers and monster butterflies, and everything's surreal all the time. It works. It's great, and it's a real joy. I do lament one thing. No, two things. Two things I lament. No. Okay, one of them, and part of this is because I have spoken to Johnny about the game, and I know what it was originally supposed to be. And this isn't fair, but I think it is still disappointment that it wasn't there at the end of the day. So the original demo, I went back and I watched a playthrough of it, and there is not a single asset that still exists in the game. It was impressive back then, but it's wiped. They took it around. But what you had then was there was a button to actually pull out the guitar, and when the guitar was out, you could just sort of play it. And whilst I think it was at set points in the original, Johnny's goal was that you'd be able to pull out the guitar and just play music whenever, to the extent that he wanted to like have like Guitar Hero controller support. Now, obviously, that makes no sense now because that stuff's not available or whatever, but it still exists. It would be a nice like thing. But what the game doesn't have, it has a button to play guitar, but you don't have control of what's being played. It's just playing a prefab track over the back. Now there are like 3 or 4 sections in the game where you get like put on like a stage, and you're just like going through an environment, and they just give you the normal Simon buttons. So you've got 5 buttons. They're all different note, and you can just experiment and jam. And those are great, and I wish I could have more than 5 notes because they're... But with what I had, I still made it work and had fun doing that. But, you know, the original sort of like... That was one of the pillars of design, sort of just like, you'd be able to sit at this amazing vista, just stop, look at the space mushrooms, breathing into new life into the caterpillars of joy or something. Just sit there, overlooking over this cliff, pull out your guitar, and just be in the moment. Yeah, be in the moment and feel. That's not there. You can see why probably most people wouldn't do that. It would take a lot of work to make sure it worked with all the background music all the time. You know, it's like a lot of effort for probably little reward at the end of the day, because most people are just going to run through the level. The other thing that I think is a little bit more, is just a more fair criticism. So when I'm like putting together like stuff for the radio, we play all game music. I'm like, fuck, Australian game coming out about music?
Surely it's full of awesome tracks.
Slam dunk. Get the soundtrack. Like, it's all just like this kind of like patty synth, like orchestral, like nothing. Like it's music, but there's no songs. There's one song, and it's by the uncle. So it's a folk song. So I played a folk song on the radio about this game about space guitars. And I really wish they got rid of the Simon thing and just had some fucking songs for those boss encounters. Like, you know, Francis Vendetti is the main character's name.
Have 4-button Guitar Hero.
Something like, yeah, like you're playing along to a song and you mess it up. Like, he's like, oh, I don't sing, I'm just a guitarist. It's like, yeah, I understand, like, you didn't have the voice actor do it and you couldn't do your own timing and all this sort of thing. But, well, I think I wrote this somewhere because it's a shit line. Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to apologize for this line, but it's true. Ziggy Stardust played guitar, but that's not why we know the name fucking Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. It's like, there are very few, like, man, I just love this guitarist is amazing. He just does 30-minute jam sessions, and there's nothing else on stage.
The only thing I remember about Jimi Hendrix is his guitaring, and not anything else at all.
You know, kiss that guy.
Yeah. I excused him.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of lyrics to Jimi Hendrix, my friend. Yeah, I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity because then I went back and listened to the Galvatrons, and they could just take some of their albums. It would be fine. It would just fit right in. So yeah, it's a real visual feast. And whilst I complain that there's no songs, the music is very cool the whole time. Visually, it's great. Audibly, it's great. The voice works really good. The story's really good. As I say, there is no challenge. The gameplay is just a thing that you do whilst you're making your way through the game. But the one other thing that it does have, and I won't say in what ways you do this, I mentioned you get to craft your persona. And you do. It's not going to affect the story, but what you do is get to make a few creative choices, and the fact that those creative choices then get held throughout the entire game is always fun. I like that. Is very happy that they got to keep that in the game because it's like it gives you some ownership.
Yeah,
it's always nice, like getting to the end, everyone getting compared.
It's like something that's like very much an experience more than a game.
Yeah, we know
it's nice to still be able to have some interactivity and choices.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool as hell, and like pretty much all Annapurna games recently, it is free on Game Pass. Yeah, and it really is like.
There's literally no reason not to play it. Yeah,
I do think these games are just like perfect for Game Pass. It's like, I know I shill for that product a lot, but it's a really fucking good product. And every day, like, things just come out. They just released a visual, like a real, like, Japanese visual novel style game. I can't remember, it's something Files or whatever. I'm like, well, that's just another genre I haven't seen on here before.
Somnium Files.
That's the one.
Because it's like a little spookier version of Danganronpa.
Oh, spookier than
it's like a psychological horror, but it's got a similar like gameplay style to it.
Cool, and that's it's like, and I probably wouldn't buy that, but I might check it out because
it's free.
Yeah, that's like the more genres they can get on there, the more just like offbeat. Yeah, the more offbeat experiences they get in there, the more those things get exposed to the mainstream. Which is good. And not everyone's going to play
like most people play games and they're not aware of so many of these games existing.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people might enjoy them if they knew they existed.
Well, we talk about
it's just about awareness.
We talk about the Outer Wilds as one of the best games of the generation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I talked to never heard of it. And it was on Game Pass. It's not anymore though. It left Game Pass like earlier in the year. Okay. I mentioned that game before. Okay. New Warioware came out.
Yeah.
So, Warioware, get it together. New Warioware game on the Switch. If you don't know Warioware, it's a game of micro games where you're given really, really quick games, normally between sort of 2 and 5 seconds, depending on how fast it's going at the time. It'll say like, block the nose, and you got to stick a finger up the nose, but you just hit these games in rapid succession. This one has a twist, but not WarioWare Twisted, which is another one. So basically everyone has had a gimmick. So the first one was just a pretty basic. You had D-pad and had A and B, but I think you only really used A for the games. GBA game, great. They had a port of it on the Switch, which had a multiplayer, and that made it really awesome too. Then they had Twisted, which had a gyroscopic control, so all the games were about moving things. Then they had Touched on the DS. You had Smooth Moves on the Wii. You had Do It Yourself, which is a build your own. That's a bit different one. Anyway, so they've all had their own little gimmick. And this one is the weirdest gimmick yet, which is you directly control a character. So normally these games would just be completely self-contained, but now you get to move a little character around the screen and they interact with the game. And then they complicate this by having a shitload of characters. And all the characters are different. And when it starts, it's sort of like, oh, well, this WarioWare can fly around and hit things in front of him. Pretty basic. Next one's like, oh, well, he's like more like a platformer, so he runs along and he jumps. Great. And eventually you'll get like, this one astral projects, and then where you astral project to, you teleport to, and it causes a shockwave where you come out. So they can be very... and some of them you don't really
very
get
complicated.
Yeah, there's like one that doesn't move at all, and you can just throw things out, but you can grab rings that they add to move. And anyway, so then before you start a level, which is a series of these games coming at you, it'll say pick your team. You don't just get to pick one; you pick a bunch, and then they cycle.
Oh, I didn't know that much. That's cool.
So whilst you might play the same game again, you might have to interact with it in a different way. So you have to keep, and there's enough of the characters that are, because it's quite a large roster. I think it's 18 characters or so. You could just pick like the ones that sort of just fly and do an attack. There's enough of those that you get through the thing. That's called the coward's way.
Pick the weirdest ones.
No, you push the randomize button.
Oh yeah, which hopefully picks the weirdest ones.
So you get what you get. And I played through most of the main game with James, like when it came out, and we played it 2-player, and we both just hit random the whole time, and it really made it chaotic and fun and kind of complex. So here's my recommendation. This game's got pretty mixed reviews, and I think it's unfair because I think it's great. What it isn't is a good first Warioware. Now, Warioware Gold is probably the best because it has the most, like, it's a combination of the original Touched and Twisted. I think that's all the ones in it. That's really good, but it's only on the DS. So I can see people going like, I just wanted a straight up regular Warioware on the Switch. I'm like, I guess that doesn't exist, so I can see the argument. But this has so much more variation, and it still has all the humor and everything that you expected. And playing through the main story, it takes you like 2 hours or something. The point is not to stop you getting through the story, because those go up to like 15 levels, you hit a boss, and then it's over. Those are levels that you then go back to, and you play way past 15. The point is to see how far you get in, because it gets faster and faster as you go. It's a challenge game. It's not about the story. What the story does is unlock stuff. So we played through it mostly 2-player, and you start getting like archives to unlock. There's challenges, so lots of individual challenges to go through. And then the thing that I wasn't expecting. So it's called Let's Get It Together, and it is it's this 2-player experience. And there's part of me going like, I mean, I get it. There's like the 2 controls on the Switch. It's like, but that 4-player mode on the GameCube version was great. And for some reason, I just don't see people talking about it. Once you finish the story mode, it unlocks 4-player modes.
Oh, cool.
Not modes. It's got a bunch of games in it, doing all the things you want. So I have not got to play it 4-player yet, but I have dabbled in it, and it's just got cool stuff. It's like sort of the meta sort of board game stuff in there. It's like, okay, we're playing a game, and in between it we do, like, we might all do a mini game, or it might be one person does a mini game and the other people can interact with it to try and mess them up and stuff like that. All the sort of trolley bullshit that you want in this kind of loose multiplayer game. And some of the modes, depending on what it is, like, it has the whole like randomize the player thing still. So like one of them has a pool of players, and at the beginning of it, it's like you each like select yours from the pool. So it's like the rain. It's like
Hungry Hippo's character selection.
Yeah, it is. Like, it's cool. As I say, maybe not the best version because it's Warioware with an extra layer of complexity over the top, which you'll get through. Like, it's not rocket surgery here. It's still like, oh yeah, instead of jumping into that guy's nostril, I'll just throw a disc into his nostril. But some games can be really hard with some characters. But it's good. That's kind of the thing. You gotta think on your feet. Yeah, pretty cool. And once that 4-player opened up, I'm like, oh, this is definitely like a Christmas holiday game that I need to play with some people, and just because the thing is, like, Warioware just has this art style, which is there is no art style. Anything goes. It's like a Terry Gilliam pastiche of like, we'll just find whatever references there are, and the amount of humor they can find in that. Because often it's like, you win something or lose something, and like suddenly everyone's crying, but the tears are making like boats come through or something, and just so gags so quick and so fast. And really, it comes because I think there's like 200 mini games, but then you got to multiply that by the amount of characters they are, making thousands of mini games. I really liked it.
I have also heard that it is one of the best examples of things looking good on the OLED Switch.
Oh, yes?
Because of how much colour there is popping off it.
Oh, that's just another reason for Paul to buy an OLED Switch. I put it in my cart.
I'm looking forward to playing Hades on mine.
Yeah, that'd be good.
With the contrast.
Yeah, good money. Just having said, I got to... Okay. I won't buy it.
Look, you'll get to see both mine and James's before you have to, like... you can have one and look at it in real life.
I mean, I don't know
And
what it
then
will
choose.
be. It's still good. And I've got the original Switch, so the battery life isn't going to be that good. And sure, I'll
Yeah,
be...
see that was my argument for, like, that was the thing that just tipped me over into getting it, is I have an original launch Switch, which
I'm about to
means
spend
I
a
will
month
get a
lying on
slightly
my
better
back.
battery.
But it does mean I could just run power to where I'm
Yeah,
lying
if you're
on
not
my
moving
back.
anyway, you just plug it in.
Yeah, you're right. It's a waste of money. Anyway, okay. Quick things before. Okay. There's a game that I played called Golf Club Wasteland.
I've seen this.
It's
I watched someone play it for 20 minutes and then quit.
it's one of the weirdest game designs I've ever had the pleasure of playing. So this is a golf game, played 2D. It's got a slightly weird control mechanism where sort of the angle and power is selected with the analog stick. So it's how far you push it out.
And it's side-on 2D.
Side on
not
2D.
top-down,
Yeah, side on
right?
2D. And you just hit go. And you just get a really close thing. There's no like long ball guidance where it's going to go or anything. It starts off like super easy, almost desert golf basic of like, okay, I just holes there, I'll knock it in. And then it goes like, this hole's got a par of 35. Well, no, limit of 35, not par, because if you pass it, you lose. And you need to go through this building and hit it up the elevator and then get over these obstacles. At which point I'm going like, man, if I fuck up, there's so much extra work to do. And it's
Rube Goldberg golf.
the golf's really basic, but it also just doesn't give you those tools to like really know where your shot's going to be and everything. So eventually, about halfway, maybe a bit further than halfway through the game, started getting frustrated. But before I get on the next bit, this is a golf game with a story. Like quite a specific story as well, and it's all told through basically this radio station you're listening to. So it has all these people, like they're playing like clips of what's happened and people responding to it and talk back and music. This game has an amazing soundtrack, and guess what, dear listeners, for the basic price of buying this game, which I think is like $10 or something, it's not an expensive game, it comes with the soundtrack. And weirdly, you get it by just when you finish the game, they give you a link. It's like, yeah, go to this link and download the soundtrack. I'm like, great. But it's a really good soundtrack. It's good. It's an awesome sounding game. And it looks great because it's all this like, the earth has been destroyed and you'll basically come as a tourist to play golf in the wasteland.
The premise is a post-apocalyptic where Earth is golf for rich people.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's kind of it. So, here's where the game switched for me when I got frustrated. So, yes, you can play the game as a golf game, or you play it kind of the way that I think it's basically made at the end of the day, unless you're a masochist, because I think it's going to really frustrate you by the end. You just turn off that stroke limit. This is a golf game walking simulator with a really good...
golf experience.
A golf experience with a story. And once I did that, I just had fun exploring the rest of the game and golfing around and taking riskier shots because I didn't have a limit anymore. And it's got a great graphical style, which is a bit surreal, and it's a bit sad, and it's got great music and atmosphere. It's really cool. But as a playable game, they need to make those golf mechanics better. But as like a cool experience, like the Artful Escape, pretty good actually. Put this on Game Pass. Apparently it wasn't a mobile game for ages, and I don't think anyone played it, so they retooled it and released it as a console game. I played it on Switch, but I think it's on a bunch of stuff. Cool. Okay, how are we going time wise? Oh, we got time. Yeah, we maybe without James, we don't waste so much time talking about Diablo 2.
Oh yeah, we would have done probably.
I would have been here going like, it's the same game as 20 years ago. Who gives a shit? And he's just like, millions of people give a shit, Paul. I'm like, I don't care about them. This is me. Because I'm like that. So, at the moment, there is another Steam Next Fest on.
Oh god, there is, isn't there?
Yep. I've downloaded a few demos. Nothing that super grabbed me yet, I don't think. But there is another demo that came out last week, which is technically part of it, but it's also just was already there and will be there afterwards as well, so you don't have to rush. The upcoming game, Inscryption, by Daniel Mullins, I think his name is. He made Pony Island and The Hex, which, if you're aware of those games, you might know the kind of thing we might be in for, which is a game that's going to subvert your expectations at every opportunity, which might make it more predictable because you expect your expectations to be subverted at every
being told
opportunity.
there's a twist in a movie.
Yeah, yeah. Except these twists aren't. These aren't Shyamalan twists. By the way, I watched Old. Hilarious movie.
I have heard that.
Holy shit. Sometimes intentional, but mostly not. So, Inscriptions, card deck building game. Don't stop. Okay. So you're presented with a card game, and it's got an interesting mechanic. Basically, it's sort of like woodland creatures with a bit of a satanic twist. So you play out cards, but cards cost blood to play, or at least cards that are worth playing. So you have to like play out weaker cards and then sacrifice them to be able to play more powerful cards. Right. So one of the first cards you play is a stout. Or is it stoat? How do you pronounce it?
Stout is a type of beverage. Stoat.
It's true. Stoat's what I want.
Animal, yeah.
I realized I'd made a mistake when I said it, but then I had to double yes myself in the head. So a stoat. And you don't have to, but one of the first early plays is obvious. Like, well, if I sacrifice this rabbit and my stoat, I play a more powerful card. I'm just going to do that. So immediately that card starts like talking to you and being like, why would you kill me while I'm asleep and everything?
Oh no.
And here we go again. And then the guy you're playing against is just, oh, here's some extra tools for you, including a set of pliers. I'm like, what's this for? So basically there's every time you kill one of their cards, you get a point, and those points are like putting little weights on a scale. So I guess minor spoilers here. It is one of the first tools you give it in the game. Nah, actually, no, fuck it. No, you play it, find out what those pliers do.
I think I've already guessed. I have a feeling I already know.
You might. You probably do, but find out. So anyway, then like things start going wrong, partly because the other character can basically cheat against you, which you think, that doesn't seem fair for a card game. And then he tells you to get up and walk away from the table. So you do. And you explore the cabin that you're in and trapped in. And I'm going to spoil this because I think it's really cool. So, it's not at the end of the demo. It's like, so at one point you will die. The guy's going to literally kill you. So before I do, let's make a card. And you get to choose like a few, like, you're like, oh, we'll take the health from this one and the power from this one and all that. And what's your name again? Let's name the card. And you can see where this is going.
You become a card.
So you just watch the trailer. It's not hiding the fact that it's going to get crazy. It is not a card game, but it is based on a card game. And I've heard some people in the beta have put in quite a lot of, like, it's not a short experience if you want it to be. It can keep going. But boy howdy, is it slick. Is it slick and polished and weird? It's like you get up and you walk around that cabin. It's just like, this is like, they've got Myst style puzzles around here. How am I going to get into that box? Yeah, I really cannot wait. It's out later this year. In many ways, almost like if you're interested in that, maybe just wait because it's just going to surprise you. But yeah, check it out. The demo is very, very quick and easy to understand. An interesting mechanic, and then
and more.
Yeah, just interesting shit. Yeah, I really, really liked it. So yeah, Inscryption it's called, and that's with like crypt in the middle, so a Y. Yeah, hopefully another banger from him. Actually, I never finished the Hex. I need to go back and do it. So Pony Island was like one of those like, hey, it's a cute game, but it's not really. It's horrible, kind of things, which kind of a bit overdone now. But it was one of the best and first ones to really do that. The second one is a game which is kind of like a murder mystery where you play a bunch of different characters, but all those characters are different game genres.
Perfect.
It's like genius. Love it. Anyway, cool. I've been playing Snowrunner.
Yeah.
So Snowrunner is the follow-up to Mud Runner, which is a trucking simulator.
Yeah. Now you can truck in the snow.
Yes, and it is currently replaced Deep Rock Galactic as my friend's Monday night game, which I'm missing currently because I'm doing this podcast on Monday night.
Yeah, true. Good point.
So no running around
Snowrunner
for me.
Paul tonight.
Yeah, I feel way out of my element because we're like, we play these games together, but everyone else got like low key, let's call it addicted. So
They're
like
playing it not on Mondays, you mean?
yes, they're like, oh, I've got all these trucks and all this. Can you drive? Oh, Paul, you can't get mud wheels yet, can you?
That's
Paul?
the problem I've always had with
goddamn.
regular multiplayer gaming is that I know that most people I know I'm gonna have to keep up with because that's just what they'll do.
Well, and the thing it's partly my curse as well because it's not like I'm not playing other games during the week, but like we've done in this episode and have spoken about a dozen games, that's what I do. They're like, well, this is my game now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna play only Snowrunner for the next 6 months.
So it's I don't know really what to say about it. It's fun as a multiplayer game.
See, that was my experience with it. It was like, this is but when you have like the social aspect piled on top,
when you're all chatting and you're all going along a shitty path and one of you's in a really bad truck, and everyone's, and then like the guy that's like, oh, I'll come and rescue out of there, Paul, messes up and rolls down the side of a mountain, and then we all have to like roll them back and hitch them up.
It's literally simulating going full driving with a bunch of mates.
Basically,
that's what it's doing.
Yeah, doing
just in extreme environments that you wouldn't really want to do in real life.
It's almost hilarious how bad these roads are sometimes. It's like, this is just like a regular like bitumen road, and then suddenly, just the next 20 meters is now a swamp. Like, how did this happen? Okay, but yeah, so it's a very swampy environments, and as the name implies, you go to Alaska and I think Russia and as the snow gets in, that adds even more complications, and you do jobs and you get money and you unlock more trucks, and it's kind of interesting. So starting multiplayer was a pain in the butt because we just loaded up the game for the first time, like, we'll start a multiplayer game. Can't. You got to play the game until you get to the first garage.
You got to get good.
You got to get to the garage. And then you can use the garage to join up because that holds your vehicles. So I load up. I'm like, hey, where's my damn truck? Because my truck was in my game. You had to put it into. You actually had to take it into the garage, and you can't like. And it kind of makes sense once you get into it because you go out, especially. You imagine it almost like this is how you'd play it single player. Okay, you go out in your truck and you're taking some logs to a building site. You're going through some mud and you get bogged. Or what do? Well, you just go back to the garage and get out another truck to tow your truck out. So those trucks actually have to kind of persistently stay in the world. Now there is a button to just send them back to the garage. So if you get totally screwed, you can just abandon it. You lose your cargo and everything, but the truck will be available again. But it does mean that not only would you have a map with your trucks all over it in the middle of other jobs doing things like, I'm just going to leave this truck over here. It's useful. Like, you do that across multiple maps, across multiple games. It's like,
you need a lot of trucks.
Yeah, eventually. I can sort of see it's like, just a world littered with the corpses of my attempted trucking. It looks really good, and just the way it like deforms the mud as you drive, and it really is great graphically because they've just nailed what things look like, which seems like an obvious thing, but it's not. Like, you're driving along and you look up in front of you and the ground is moist. But just from your own experience in real life, you go like, oh, it's wet, but it's not like soaked through. Like, that's hard pack enough that I can still just drive across it okay. And they've got it right. It's like, okay, this is actually...
You can tell when there's too much snow or you're like...
Yeah, and then the things are adaptable enough that the ground, like... If it's continued to drive over, maybe that's not so hard pack anymore. Maybe moisture's starting to get forced up into it. It's starting to get sloppier. And it all just works. And I like to play it first person. I think everyone else is there, but I really get in. I need to get a racing wheel up here. Like,
get the full setup.
The thing that I do not
buy the front of a truck to put it all in.
Well, I don't want that. I want VR.
Yeah,
like, it needs to be a VR game. It's like, why it doesn't have support. I'm like, this would be perfect. Just like James would have a field day, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
You just come in and you're like, what have you been doing today, James? Oh, I've just been hauling steel.
Just trucking.
Yeah.
Like, it's not space trucking, but it's trucking.
It's still trucking. So it's taken me so
There's
long
something
'cause
about it.
I decided to just go through this swamp, and I'm only going about an inch an hour, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Here we go.
Getting paid by the hour, obviously.
And I'm playing it on Game Pass.
Yeah. I think it first came out on Epic.
Yeah.
Like it was an Epic release, and then like
Or
everything.
do I have it on Epic? Either way,
It was
I have
free
it
on
free.
Epic at one
Yes, I
point.
must have got it on Epic as free.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was on Game Pass. I don't know if it's currently on Game Pass. Anyway, if you're interested in trucking and you got friends, I really think it is that, like, just be able to chat. I mean, I guess you don't actually need everyone in there. It'd be a
No.
Discord game.
Yeah.
Yeah, a Discord game or something, just like passing some time. But yeah, there's a lot of content, which is pretty easy to generate because all you need is 2 points
Just
on a
more
map.
trucks and more places.
Yeah, you've made the maps. Just like here, take this over there. Literally, all you can do. It's like go here and pick this up. It is funny when like the physics really kicks in there, especially like stuff falling off the trailers and then having to get a crane and pick it up and get it back on the trailer. And it's one of those things. It's got like a really annoying interface to learn, but as soon as you learn it, like everything's easy. And it's like, oh, okay.
I find that with a lot of like those hard simulation games is similar. There's just so much going on in them that you're like, this is overwhelming, and then like 3 weeks later or whatever, you're like an expert.
Yeah,
You know what everything is. You just have to do it.
When I talk to the guys, because they're way more into it than me, it's like it sounds like they're truck experts now. And it's like, oh, I'm working up this. Oh, it's got. I don't know anything about vehicles. I'm way out of my depth. I'm like, I just got
Still fun though.
I got the red one. It's pretty good. Have you put mud tires on it yet, Paul? I haven't unlocked those. I'm in like level 4. Oh, yeah, that was a long time ago for us. Oh, well, I've only played it for 3 hours yet, technically. Anyway, those monsters leaving me alone like that. Looking at other things. That skipped some of the stuff. I think that might kind of be it. You watched anything or done anything else interesting?
I'm going to point out New World just because it's,
that was
it's a
another
very
thing.
interesting thing that is launched.
That's breaking everyone's
This is
video
Amazon's
cards.
MMO that's breaking everyone's machines.
It is not. It is a lie. They are bad video cards. That is all that happened.
Yeah, and for everyone that's not in Australia, it's Queue Simulator.
Oh, yeah. It's okay in Australia, is it?
Yeah, Australia's fine. No, a couple of the big servers in Australia do have pretty big queues, but they're solving the problem. Everyone's like, oh, why are there server queues? It's Amazon. They literally own AWS. Why do the servers have queues? Like, because a world has like a population limit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you fuck up your MMO's economy and spawns and resources, and you can't have 7,000 people in the start area because it's just won't be fun.
Yeah, because then it's like well, why don't you make another server?
It's not a hardware problem.
Yeah. It's like,
It's
how many servers
population
can you
density
have?
problem. Well, that's what they're
exactly.
doing. They're just making new empty servers for people to join instead of.
But then there's also like you
and
get
it's like, well,
you
you
get
can't
like,
play with your friends.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the thing. It's
So
like
then they're like, well, we'll let you transfer, and it's like, well, then you have the same problem because everyone transfers.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting.
It's one of those things that settles after it's been out for a few months.
Yeah, it's just teething problems of an MMO, really, especially one that has on launch topped Steam's concurrent players list.
Yeah,
like they've had over 1 million players on first day of launch, kind of thing. And I find it interesting that there is a lot of people in some of the gaming circles I'm in that have never heard of it.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, there's 1 million people playing it, but never heard of it.
Yeah, but that's
no
like
idea.
which
really shows like the bubbles of gaming.
Well, that's the thing. It's like the biggest games in the world. I don't know anyone that plays.
Yeah,
and then it's like, oh, well,
because we're in the fucking indie
we're the kind of dickheads that talk about spider games and space lasers.
But as a game, it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's definitely RuneScape with RTX turned on.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you can certainly tell that this is a game that has been turned into an MMO that was originally designed as a survival game.
Okay.
There's a lot of systems, and even just down to how the audio is designed, it's very much a survival game. Like cutting down a tree is the loudest thing in the world.
How survivally is the survival? Is
Not very now. I'm sure it would have been if they'd kept it on track, but I'm sure it was at some point, and they pivoted.
Yeah.
Like you eat food, but you don't have to eat food. what it does is like you get a buff for 20 minutes. It means
Oh,
you
yeah,
heal.
that-
It gives you a passive heal
That's
over
how
time.
Valheim does
So
it
like
as well,
like
yeah.
WoW, for example, if you're not in combat, you heal.
Yeah.
Whereas in Valheim and in this, it's like if you've eaten recently, you'll heal. If not, you have to eat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting systems. There's a lot of very different things. Like it's not doing a typical cliche MMO. Even though it has a lot of grind and a lot of skills, because it is very RuneScapey. Like there's all of the crafting going on and like all the separate skills and resource gathering and all that stuff. Active combat, very fluid. Almost feels Dark Soulsy if you've got low latency. Not difficulty wise, but as far as action combat wise.
Yeah.
And I think it's got an interesting place. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it over time. And it has one of the nicest UI designs I've ever seen in an MMO.
Ooh.
It is the most fluid UI I've ever encountered. Everything just kind of shifts and moves as it needs to, out of the way or into the way.
You know, ever since
if you're not in combat, your health's like still there but grayed out if it's full. And then when you go into combat, it shows up red, so you can see it better. Mana and stuff only shows up if you're using it. You bring up your inventory, the camera like zooms in on your character, and then it all just kind of flows in. It's all beautifully designed.
Ever since the installer for Command and Conquer, I've loved a fancy UI.
Yeah.
And so that
It is
weirdly, you're describing the slick UI.
It is
the thing that has most
very
interested
slick.
me so
it is
far.
incredibly slick. And I think they put a lot of effort into it.
Well, also that'd be interesting because especially with like focus on crafting and everything, crafting UIs, again, it's kind of like the SnowRunner thing. Like they're all shit, but once you learn them, they're fine.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to see how slick they could make that.
There's a lot of little things too, like for crafting, for example. Like you go to a smelter, you bring it up, you pick from the list what you want to make, you pick how many you want to make, and then it crafts them. And then from the window where you've crafted them, clicking anywhere takes you back to the screen where you pick from the list. Hit an escape brings you out of it. It's just little things like that where it's like very quick to get through menus.
It's just that level of polish and like attention to detail that it's like it's little things, but they all add up to give you like a satisfying experience and just it makes, especially something that has grind and tedium to it. You don't want a lot of friction. You just want people to be able to do stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's funny how I'm most excited about the UI, but I really am.
The other thing I find very intriguing about it that I personally haven't done anything with at the moment is the PvP. It is heavily PvP oriented because the idea is you're in this new world, in a whole new map, settlements that are starting from scratch, and you join a faction. You join one of 3 factions, and every faction has companies in it. So the companies are guilds.
Yep.
And with your faction, you work to build up the settlements. You do quests as an individual player that increases a bar that levels up the crafting stations in that settlement. So, crafting tier 2, tier 3 to be able to make higher level stuff. And then...
I mean, in many ways, it does sound like
syndicates can own towns. Syndicates own areas, and an individual company can own a town and set taxes on that town for crafting. So how much it costs you to craft things, how much it, like, when you get resources, like, there's a tax on it. There's this whole system, like, player-driven system going on there.
Are these towns and everything, are they something that players can sort of design at some level, or
no,
are they just
are
prefab
set
things?
Prefab towns. And that just upgrade over time kind of deal.
Okay.
And there's player houses.
Because I didn't expect it to be like a full crafting system, but I thought it might like you could place buildings around or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's not full like that. It's just prefab set. But it's more about like the ownership and tax.
Yeah.
Because then the secondary thing is if your syndicate owns a zone, what you can do if you're in that syndicate, not only do you get a bunch of benefits like being able to fast travel quicker or like transfer items between towns because storage is town specific. You can do PvP quests, which keeps ownership of that area. And opposing syndicates can do PvP quests to build up their kind of... I forgot what the word's used, but basically to go against the one that owns the zone. And when it builds up enough, you can go, I want to start a war.
Go have a little war.
Hit the war button. Wars happen at a set time, and it's 50 versus 50 PvP.
Okay.
Scaled level. So anyone can join, and it's skill-based. It's entirely down to skill. Like, none of it is like, oh, I have better gear, therefore I'm going to win the PvP duel. Like, it's everyone gets scaled to the same thing, and then you're just playing PvP.
I should look up some footage of those, because that sounds
50 v50 action combat PvP in an MMO, and as far as I can tell, I've seen a few streamers that have done it. It works.
That's cool.
And it is heavily skill based.
How self-serious is it?
In what way?
Like, is it a very serious game, or does it have like the cheeky edge of like a WoW or something?
It takes itself a little seriously, yeah. Like the storylines and plot that's going on, it's very set in the world it has.
Yeah.
To the point where like people have been like, well, why do mounts? Like, why don't we have mounts in this MMO? And the devs have been like, oh, because you're in this weird new world of corruption stuff, and any animal you bring in gets corrupted and can't be tamed and domesticated.
Yeah.
They've like given a reason why there's no mounts, because they just didn't want mounts in the game.
Yeah.
It's all heavy lore, but it's an interesting space because it's an MMO that's launched that isn't just doing a typical MMO thing.
Yeah, it has
it's nice to see new ideas.
Look, I want to see the wars and I want to see the UI.
Yeah,
that's my list of interests.
It has the unfortunate matter of like, you need to put a lot of time into it, otherwise you fall behind everyone else because it's very grindy.
It sounds like Paul's never going to get over that problem.
To me, it was like, I haven't slept tonight. It's 1 a.m. I'm going to go chop trees for 3 hours.
But the wars are scaled, so I can go in my
I can go high
level
PvP
2
if I want. Yeah.
I've been playing for 3 years, and I'm level 2 now, and I just do what I can in these wars.
Well, you could level up entirely by cutting trees.
Let's face it, it's a time issue, not a tree issue.
It also has no classes. You just pick a weapon, and then each weapon has weapon mastery that levels up as you use it, and unlocks a skill tree for that weapon. And you it's free to respec up to a certain level, but you can respec at any time anyway. And just swap weapons.
Sounds good. Okay. I think that brings us basically to the end. I've been playing more Puzzling Places, but I think I've spoken about that too many times. It's a very good VR game.
Good puzzles.
And yeah. Look, I guess very quickly I could just mention it because I did get sent a key, so let's do this and mention-wise. Spookware. Spookware came out. It used to have a demo on itch. What is Spookware?
Is it a version of shareware?
No.
But spooky?
But it's like a game we've already spoken about this episode. Mm-hmm. You know how I said Warioware, let's get it together, doesn't have like a standard Warioware mode?
Yep.
Spookware is standard Warioware, but everything's spooky.
So more emphasis on the wear part.
Yeah. In fact, I think it's only single player, so it is kind of very old school. It's just a really simple... Well, it's not... I mean, simple as in like it is a Warioware style game, very nicely made with sort of a horror theme to it. Yeah, that's basically it though. If you're looking for a WarioWare fix and Let's Get It Together is too much weirdness, get a look at Spookware. It's not bad, but it's only available on PC at the moment. No. So I reckon get 4-player mode in there and get it on consoles and
good to go.
Come back with some spooky things. Okay, that's call it an it for 8.5-bit. Thank you for joining us. On the sign behind me. I only wrote that because we were talking about Outer Wilds and Disco Elysium Director's Cut came up this year, and it's been re-released on Switch this month. And also the Director's Cut for Death Stranding just came out, which none of us have played yet, but we probably will, because those were our top 3 games of 2019. Yeah. And they're back again.
So this year's done.
Yeah, this year we're just going to replay the episode from that year for Game of the Year. It's those 3 again, although this year's got some good stuff.
It does.
Yeah. Where does Loop Hero fall?
Oh, good point.
Oh, it's a year. It's like a Deathloop Loop Hero.
Yeah, this year is a loop year.
Yeah. And we got a lot of time looping games as well. Forgotten City, 12 minutes, which will not be making an appearance on our top games of the year.
Bottom games.
I feel very confident in saying that. But if there was top games to talk about this year, it might get there. Yeah. Let's all pull one out for the game that 12 minutes could have been. That's the theme of this year. How shit was 12 minutes? Very. Thank you for listening or watching. I've been your host, Paul.
I've been Sam.
You catch us on our website, Facebook, blah, 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 discord.8.5bit.com.
All the good stuff.
And here comes the click.